and all the many blessings that you bestowed upon us. We pray, Lord, that you would be with us tonight as we conduct this school board meeting, that we would do things that would be within your keeping. We thank you for the citizens of Wilson County and the trust that they've placed in us, that we will provide a decent education for their most precious possession, being their children. Lord, I'd like to also ask you tonight that you would be with our football teams this weekend, this Friday night, as they travel a great distance away to play in the state playoff games. Give them safe travel, protect them from any injuries, be with our teams that are playing at home. We pray that they would play their very best game, and that you would just watch over them and keep them safe, both teams and all the teams that are participating. We ask that your blessing and your safekeeping be upon them. Thank you for your son, Jesus. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's 6 o'clock this time. I'm going to call the meeting of the Wilson County Board of Education to order. At this time, we would have the Pledge of Allegiance led by the Watertown Middle School.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Dr. Wright, I think we have a special presentation by the Watertown Choir. If you want to say a few words about that before we get started.
I think after they finish, if you don't, Mr. Chair, because I'd like them to introduce themselves, and I think I also identified one young man that will give a short speech afterwards, but he's saying no now, but I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much for allowing us to perform for you tonight. This is the select choir of 7th and 8th grade students from Watertown Middle School. I chose them not only based on their musical talent, which they have plenty of, but also for their hard work that they put in every time our class meets, and for their good display of character that is present inside and outside the classroom. This is a really great group of kids that's in front of you, so I hope you enjoy our performance. The first song that we're going to play, sings for you, is called We Are the Children of Tomorrow by Terry McFeeters. This piece tells a positive message of young people working together to make a difference in our world. The second verse of the song includes the text, "We'll teach the next generation. We believe we can. The future is in our hands." And it's a perfect summarization of the power that our students hold.
Together we can make a difference. Together we can make a start. So put your hand in my hand. This song comes straight from the heart. Nothing can stand between us. United we are strong. With you, my friend, beside me, I know where I belong. We are the children of tomorrow. It's all up to us to find a better way. We are the children of tomorrow. We won't let a thing stand in our way. We can change the land together. We'll make the world a better place. With peace and love forever. Friendship will lead the way. We'll teach the next generation. We believe we can. Join in our celebration. The future is in our hands. We are the children of tomorrow.
100 Years by the band Five for Fighting. This entertaining yet thought-provoking song asks us to ponder how our days would be spent if we put a timeline on the life that we've been given. It encourages us to make the most of our time here on earth and to make each day count, no matter which stage of life we're in. As the song says, there's never a wish better than this when you've only got 100 years to live.
I'm 15 for a moment, caught in between 10 and 20, and I'm just dreaming, counting the ways to where you are. 15, there's still time for you, time to buy and time to lose. 15, there's never a wish better than this, when you only got 100 years to live. I'm 33 for a moment, I'm still the man, but you see I'm a they, a kid on the way, a family on my mind. I'm 45 for a moment, the sea is high and I'm heading into a crisis, chasing the years of my life. 15, there's still time for you, time to buy and time to lose yourself within a morning star. 15, I'm alright with you. 15, there's never a wish better than this, when you've only got 100 years to live. Half the time goes by, suddenly you're wise, another blink of an eye. 67 is gone, the sun is getting high, we're moving on. I'm 99 for a moment, I'm dying for just another moment, and I'm just dreaming, counting the ways to where you are. 15, there's still time for you. 22, I feel her too. 33, you're on your way. Every day's a new day. Ooh, ooh. 15, there's still time for you. Time to buy and time to choose. Hey, 15, there's never a wish better than this, when you only got 100 years to live.
If they would each introduce themselves and the grade that they're in. Okay. And yourself as well. Okay. What's your name? What's your grade?
I'm Juliana and I'm in 7th grade.
I'm Audrey and I'm in 7th grade.
I'm Zoe and I'm in 7th grade.
I'm Lenora and I'm in 8th grade.
I'm Faith and I'm in 7th grade.
I'm Madison and I'm in 7th grade. I'm Alex and I'm in 8th grade.
I'm Jake and I'm in 7th grade.
I'm Dakota, I'm in 8th grade.
I'm Colton, I'm in 7th grade.
And I'm Ashley Copeland, and this is my 4th year at Watertown Middle School.
And the principal, Michael Pigg. Thank you so much.
All right, moving on with the statements of citizens, guests, and delegations. Oh, where's that? that's that one on there. Okay, I got a different agenda here. Okay. Special, yeah. Tennessee Ready overview with Jennifer Coffin. Hey Jennifer, there you go. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine. And thank you, Mr. Chair. Because a lot of things are happening right now and wanting to make sure that we keep everyone informed and updated, I asked Ms. Cochran, who's over testing and accountability, to give us an overview about Tennessee Ready and as far as significance of today. So, Ms. Cochran.
Okay. Ms. Ford's going to run the PowerPoint for me. I'm going to keep this brief and give you some information about today. Today was actually our first window open for our high schools to test. So I wanted to kind of give you an update on how it went today and our some additional information. Let's see. Angela, you pull the PowerPoint. It's already open if it was difficult. Work. There you go. If you'll hit slideshow and begin. All right, keep going. We'll get moving quick. We have a new assessment this year, TN Ready. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about that tonight. TN Ready is a new and improved TCAP assessment for math and English language arts in grades 3 through 11. Okay. We've been taking a TCAP test since 1988. That stands for Tennessee Comprehensive Assessment Program. TN Ready is a new TCAP. Okay, so you're still going to hear us talk about TCAP. So I didn't want you to get confused if you heard TN Ready and you heard TCAP. Not only do we have a new assessment for math and English language arts, but we also have a new social studies assessment. That's not necessarily part of TN Ready. TN Ready is the name for the math and the English language arts assessment. Okay, social studies is a new assessment. It's still TCAP DOC. It's new this year also. TN Ready, it's designed to measure students' real understanding. It's not about their test-taking skills or memorization. A lot of times on the math assessments, you're able to work backwards. In this case with TN Ready, you're not necessarily able to do that. We're measuring students' true understanding. It's taken online, both the math, not both, but the English language arts, the math, and social studies are all on the same platform, which is MIST. So you may hear MIST, you may hear TN Ready, and you may hear talk about new social studies assessments. So there's a lot of acronyms out there, but those are the ones that you're going to hear when we're talking about TN Ready. It's given in 2 parts. All the assessments are given in 2 parts. We start at part 1 today. There are practice tools for teachers to use, for parents. So I know we've got a good crowd of parents tonight. You can get on and also see what MICA looks like and what the practice test might look like for your students. I actually have that pulled up on your laptops or your computers up there. If you want to click the second tab, if you hit the next button, it's going to give them the website. If you got, I want to take just a moment to show you just a couple of things from that side. If you all click that second tab on the Internet Explorer, you should be there. I'm going to walk over here and help them just a minute. Okay? Okay, you can choose your subject, math, English language arts. We're going to click through math 3-5 for just a minute, just to give you some ideas of what it actually looks like in the tools that the students have that they can use. So this is a 3-5 example problem. You've got conversions, you've also got a highlighter, you've got where you can only a line reader, you can zoom in, you can zoom out. There are a lot of features. Let me get to okay, drag and drop. So these problems are interactive for students, whereas before I would stand at the board and write a problem on the board. This is much more interactive for our students. This is what our classrooms are turning toward. We're moving toward that interaction. Kids are involved when they sit down to work these type problems. They get excited to see that I'm going to drag and drop. I'm going to draw grass. If you'll hit the next one. At the very top. where it says next. Using grids to draw. I'll practice for you. You can click, draw your grids. So these assessments are very interactive, and I just wanted to show you that so you can kind of see the type of problems and the type activities that students are going to be doing when they are using or taking these assessments. Not only are they taking the assessments that look like this, but this is what our teachers are using in the classroom. Classrooms are changing. They're changing a lot from when I was teaching, and that's not been that long ago. I mean, we would put math problems up on the board and we would work them on a whiteboard. Students are engaged. They're using this technology to discover as they work problems. If you'll click the next one. Okay, so today we started part 1. I've kind of broken down the part 1, week 1, week 2, week 3. As a district, we set the subjects that were given in the week. And then we gave schools flexibility how they scheduled. So when we say week 1 U.S. History and English 1, that does not mean that we're testing that entire week. It means within that week, if you're in English 1, you're going to take part 1. If you're in U.S. History, you're going to take U.S. History. It's for one block of time. They're 90 minutes. So that's maybe a little more than one block, depends on how the school's scheduled, but usually our schedules run between 80 to 90 minutes. So it's usually one class period. So don't get confused when you look and you see November 2nd through the 6th, we're testing every day. We're not. Okay? Matter of fact, when you walk into the building, you're probably not going to know that they're testing. So today, when I walked into Lebanon High School, you would never know that anything was different today unless you walked by a door that said testing do not disturb. And that's the way we want to keep it. We don't want to interrupt instruction. That is our goal. We are not shutting down the school to test. Okay? Let me give you an update on today. Today we had 10 classes tested at LHS and 2 at Watertown High School. I've got to brag on our instructional technology department with Ken and our technology department. They were on hand at the schools to assist. Anything that occurred today, we were able to handle. We had one issue with connectivity. It affected about 4 kids. Immediately, someone from technology was in that room, corrected it, and we didn't have another problem. So I was very happy with the way it went today. On our side as a district, we were ready and prepared. The administration in the buildings were ready to go first thing this morning. They were prepared. So from our standpoint, it was very smooth for us today and looking forward to tomorrow. So Monday morning, testing first thing, we had not a lot of issues. I was very pleased when I came back to talk to Dr. Wright. Grades 3 through 8 will start in February. Part 1 will begin in February for grades 3 through 8. Of course, we'll have our second block will start then too, okay? But if you ever have questions, please don't hesitate to ask, because I know there's a lot of new things that come up. There's also a lot of acronyms. I can help you straighten those out. So if you have any issues, please let me know, but I'll keep you posted on if we do run across any issues. Anything else? Anybody got any questions? Any questions for Jennifer? Okay.
Along that line, I'd like to say that on November the 17th, the Commissioner of Education will be in Lebanon, Cumberland University, to address TN Ready and the TGAP assessment. So that's a program to be held at Cumberland University. Anybody that might be interested in sitting in on that and listen to Commissioner Queen speak.
And it's open to the area.
It's open to the public, and so you can be there and listen to the commissioner as she talks about TN Ready. Knows a lot of people interested in that.
And we're going to recognize some schools, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Jennifer, I'm going to ask you to come back up here just because we're going to talk about significance. And so tonight, we're going to recognize schools for earning all A's in achievement. And when you see the number of schools, you'll understand the significance of what we're going to recognize tonight. And if they're here, I would like for them to step forward. Wendell Marlowe, West Wilson Middle School. See? Move to the front, sir. Chris Plummer, West Elementary. Peggy Drewer, Dr. Peggy Drewer.
Oh, y'all come on up here.
W.A. Wright. Christine Miller, Stoner Creek. Kathy York, Rutland Elementary. Tim Bell, Mount Juliet Middle School. Sandra Grisham, Mount Juliet Elementary. You're a team. Tracy Burke, Lakeview Elementary. Monica Fox, Gladeville, back to back. And Wilma Hawkins, Elton Patton.
Thank you.
They're always, again, we're talking about all A's in achievement as recognized by the state. We're talking about grades 3 through 8 recognized. You notice that we do not have any high schools in front of you tonight, but 10 out of our 14 schools. But here's the other piece. 11, excuse me. Excuse me. Ms. Bass was not language arts. But the other piece that I would also add, Watertown Middle School, if we were just looking at last year, which they're newly formed, would be standing up here as well. But they were not recognized because they had not, as far as having several years of data behind them. So, Ms. Cogman, what is the significance when we're talking about all A's in achievement?
Achievement means our students are performing at a very high level. When you talk about passing a test, our students are passing these tests with flying colors. When I was talking about T and rating, we're talking about TCAP. Our students are performing at a very high level. We have some very high performing schools. We should be very proud of Wilson County schools.
This is significant. And if you look at it just statistically, as far as out of the numbers of schools, as far as the district to achieve this grade 3, 8, so 10 out of 14 eligible, and 11 out of 14 hit the mark with all A's in achievement. So thank you so much, not only for your hard work, but what your staff are doing as well. Absolutely.
Did I say a word about Tracy Bird?
No.
Did I say a word about
If you could be nice.
It would really actually be All right, guys, where's the rest of you? Come on, Bill. Come on, Larry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much for what you do every day out there leading your school. Also, you all are the leaders of that school, and your schools are a direct reflection on you all and what you do, and your teachers are there every day following your leadership, and we certainly appreciate those too. And as you saw a while ago with the Watertown Choir, and this right here, this is just another example of the good things and the fine things that are going on within our school system. And we need to show our appreciation to our teachers and our administrators every day and every chance we get. And you people that's sitting out there as parents tonight, I would encourage you to visit your school. Be in that school. That school's open at your school, and you need to be in there. And you need to see those teachers, and you need to talk to them, and you need to interact with them. Find out what's going on in their classroom. Talk to them about what your child's doing. Sit down with them. If you're elementary school kids, sit down with them at night and read to them and help them get started. That's just the kind of things that we need to do. Okay, statements by citizens and guests and delegations. And the first call we have is Terry DeVille, or How do I pronounce that?
DeVille.
DeVille? Oh, DeVille? Okay. All right, Ms. Terry, I'm reading this to you. Please state your name, address, and the subject of your presentation. Your topic must be specific in nature, dealing only with policies or procedures. We reserve the right to terminate the remarks at any time that you fail to adhere to these regular guidelines, or that your comments become abusive to an individual board member, the board as a whole, the director of school, or any employees of the school system. The board shall have no obligation to respond, and at the conclusion of your remarks, the board and the director of school shall have the right and the privilege to ask questions. Your remarks may be limited to 5 minutes, with the board secretary keeping the time. If you have asked to be added to the agenda, your remarks will only be limited to 3 minutes. Then Ms. Kelly, the board secretary, will be keeping your time there, and nice time.
Now,
Thank you.
so I need to tell you my address, 1874 Quarry Road, here in Montgomery.
Okay.
What I would like to bring up to the board, and I do not know because I don't come regularly enough if it's been brought up before, but I've seen our schools just burst at the seams in the last few years, and they have supplied wonderful teachers to fill spots that are needed. The thing I'm addressing tonight is the support staff, the people that sit in the office, that do our attendance, or whatever the office type situation has been. I have seen those ladies at the couple schools that I have been involved in go from being able to greet you and maybe chat with whatever your need may be to just swamped, where they have only seconds. I've watched walking in at lunchtime to where some of them don't even have time for a 30-minute lunch. They do it out of, I know, the goodness of their heart. My boy is in a situation where he uses the IUP system. So a week ago Friday, we had a meeting and where one aide had to leave the room to take care of something else and another aide step in. They seem to be shuffling constantly. And I didn't know, my question is, do they have plans? I've got a couple more years, my boy in high school. Are there any plans to add some support staff to some of our schools? Or as one thing I thought of, coming from the business world, a floater that would address our high schools or address our middle schools. Also, there are several of the girls in the office and other individuals that are probably very close to retirement. I was wondering how you all were preparing for that. I know of two right now, and they're all at one school. So that was one of my concerns. My other concern is, it just happened today. I just found out that my boy's bus had changed, different number. Being a teenager, me walking up to the bus first thing in the morning, he's like, "Oh, really, Mom? You're gonna embarrass me." So I could not see from, do they have some type of procedure that if a child's bus has to be changed, the parents are notified of the new bus number?
Should
Those are my
be
two questions.
something in place with that, yeah.
That's what I was wondering. Those are my two questions. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. For those of you that might not understand what she said there, when she talked about support staff, we have two classifications of people that work for us. The certified staff, which are the teachers, principals, and that kind of thing, and then the classified staff, that's the support staff. And that's what she's talking about, and she referred to an IEP. And for those of you not familiar with what an IEP means, that's an individual educational plan, and we have several students in our system that are under those plans, and they have special things that they have that's offered to them, and that's what she's talking about. And Dr. White, do you want to address anything that she might have said?
Other than, as far as the concerns that you express, that's something that we do take and note. I don't know that we've ever been fully staffed, and you're talking about the hard work and dedication of people that, just make it happen. And sometimes it might even appear a little chaotic, particularly if you're in a high school in that front office. But there is, a plan in place. You were also talking about people that might be retiring soon. I won't say that we're always the best at succession planning to make sure that there's follow-up, but we always try to cross-train so that if there's a rotation that someone's filling in. But we do try to address that. But again, we'll never be staffed to the level that we would like to be. And, there's budget limitations with that. And as to the bus situation, we do have a notification system. And if that's something that's not been addressed, please call us or call the transportation department so we can make sure that that's remedied. And what high school are we referring to? So Wilson Central, okay. And I'll check as well, but if you have any question like that, please don't hesitate to call us.
I actually left them a message.
Okay. Thank you.
Nicole Roning and Joe Evans. They here? All right. Says you'd like to discuss the fall leadership camp.
Yes, my name's Joe Evans, and I'm a CTE instructor with Wilson Central High School.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Please state your name, your address, and subject of your presentation. I have to do this. Y'all know y'all get tired of hearing that both nights over with me. That's just something we gotta do here, so bear with me. And I'm not smart enough that I can memorize it, so I have to read it to you. We reserve the right to terminate remarks at any time you fail to adhere to the guidelines that your comments become abusive to an individual board member of the board as a whole, the director of schools, or an employee of the school system. The board shall have no obligation to respond. At the conclusion of your remarks, the board of director or the school will have the privilege to ask questions. Your remarks will be limited to 5 minutes, with the board secretary keeping the time. If you've asked to be added to the agenda, you can only speak for 3 minutes. All right, Mr. Joe, go ahead, Kelly, keep in time.
Well, I think there's probably a good joke we need to interject here somewhere. Again, my name's Joe Evans. My home address is 404 Pennsylvania Avenue, Lebanon, Tennessee. Lifelong resident, and I'm here to introduce some students here that are going to talk about Skills USA, a little more than just the camp, but about what we do and our school and Skills USA as a whole. And enough of that for me, and I'm going to introduce our chapter president and Middle Tennessee State Vice President, Rachel Burkett.
All right, good evening. And as Mr. Evans said, I'm Rachel Burkett, and I'm the Skills USA State Vice President. And these are some of our Wilson Central officers, Blake Bernard, Danny Malonis, and Courtney Nutella. Worldwide, the most difficult to fill vacancies for 2013 were for skilled workers. This skills category has topped the rankings in 5 of the past 6 years.
Experts project 47 million job openings in the decade ending in 2018, 1/3 of which will require an associate's degree, a certificate, and nearly all will require real-world skills that can be mastered through career and technical education.
According to recent surveys of hiring trends, more than 33% of employers have unfilled job openings because they can't find applicants with the skills necessary for the job. A report at Harvard Business School found that 27% of all skilled professionals may earn more money than bachelor's degree recipients.
The average skills worker is 56 years old. By 2030, 79 million people will have retired, while only 41 million new workers will enter the workforce.
So what is Skills USA, and why do we want you to know about it? Skills USA is the student-ran organization for students in career and technical education classes. These students get the opportunity to compete, network, and receive scholarships within the career path that they choose.
Skills USA has over 300,000 memberships nationwide, 50,000 state competitors, and 6,000 national competitors each year. We have contests in culinary arts, baking, automotive, drafting, criminal justice, robotics, and many leadership contests such as job interview.
A recent survey from USA Today revealed that 40% of today's youth believe that they should be promoted every 2 years regardless of their performance. 75% admit to cheating regularly in high school and college. 70% experience phantom pocket vibration syndrome.
So what is the good news about today's youth? We have comfort and skill with technology. We can bring new ideas, and we are very flexible.
Skills USA teaches its members the importance of our framework, which consists of personal, workplace, and technical skills. This past September, our members went to a leadership camp at Camp Edmonds, where they participated in workshops teaching students the characteristics of a good leader in any kind of scenario. One of the state officers shared her personal experience of how Skills USA helped her overcome a very serious fear of hers, which was speaking in front of groups like we are today. The workplace aspect of the framework involves how to improve a member's ability to work effectively in a team setting. For example, at camp, we completed several outdoor courses as a team, and we wouldn't have been able to do those without working together as like a unified body. By exposing members to the technical side of the workplace, they are given an opportunity to be one step ahead of their peers in regards to being technically savvy.
As the Skills USA State Vice President, I had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. this fall for the Washington Leadership Training Institute. At this event, we were given the chance to meet new people from across the U.S., including Puerto Rico. We toured monuments, attended leadership classes, and met with our state representatives to discuss the importance of career and technical education and Perkins funding.
Skills USA is not just an organization filled with competitions. We also give back to the community. Recently, we've been helping with our memorial garden that honors students who have passed away. This is a great way for family and loved ones to come and see that we care about our youth.
Skills USA gives students the opportunity to change their lives and better their workplace readiness ability. We have a framework that defines our mission statement. Skills USA empowers its students
To become world-class workers.
leaders
And responsible American citizens.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I can make a comment. I mean, and again, the young people that are standing in front of us right now, you can see why not only do we have an award-winning Skills USA program in this district, but just listening to your presentation, and yes, you had notes, but making great eye contact as far as the delivery, and also as far as just being able to speak it with such a tone of confidence. And again, you've already been to DC. Any competitions coming up soon that you'll be?
Several robotic competitions.
Say that a little bit louder. So
Several robotic competitions as well as culinary competitions that they enter annually.
are you going to win?
I can't get to say my life.
That way.
They will though.
But very, very proud of not only the work you do, but representing Wilson County. Job well done. So thank you so much, and thank you, Joe, for as far as the time and the energy you put, because it takes a lot just even sponsoring and make sure that they are where they need to be.
Well, Ms. Roney really deserves the majority of the credit. She's the cornerstone for Skills USA in our school for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, they're making their way out. Dr. Wright, would you like to tell the audience here tonight what the graduation rate is for a CTE class?
Oh, gosh. In fact, if you look at the, as far as the CTE and sort of tease it out from regular graduation, we have one of the highest graduation rates in the state if you look at just our regular graduates. But CTE runs 98 to 99% as far as looking at their graduates, and I'm getting a nod from the back of the room there as far as it. I believe that last record, was it 99%? Wait, so what?
995 last.
995, but it was
9953.
But again, when you look at that and you look at what not only the leadership that these youngsters are learning, and when they compete, whether it's Skills USA, but any of our, FFA, any of the organizations that come under that CTE umbrella, they do well, not only statewide, but nationally. And so we have a lot to take pride in as far as not only the preparation, but when you look at what they do and how they represent us, and I cease to be amazed, again, at the level of expertise that they're learning while they're in high school. So.
Along that same line, and we need to move on, but there's at Lebanon High School, the CTE classes over there, their culinary arts class. I had the opportunity to go over there the other night for a meeting, and they prepared a meal that you couldn't go to a 5-star restaurant anywhere around and get any better food. And on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays from 11, I think it's from 10:45 until maybe 12:30, You can go in there and you can eat, and they have a wonderful menu. You can go to their website, pull it up, see what they're having that day. And they also serve breakfast of a morning that a lot of the kids take advantage of. But just food just outstanding, and that program is run by Mr. Miko and Miss Lindsay Morgan. And not to take anything away from the woodworking classes, the automotive classes, they all do an outstanding job too. All right. Paula Ennis, you'd like to come forward, please? While you're making your way up here, Miss Paula, please state your name, address, and the subject of your presentation. Your topic must be specific in nature, dealing with only the policies and procedures. We reserve the right to terminate remarks at any time that you fail to adhere to the guidelines, or that your comments may become abusive to an individual board member, the board as a whole, the director of schools, or any employee of the school system. The board shall have no obligation to respond, and at the conclusion of your remarks, the board and the director of schools shall have the privilege to ask questions. You have 5 minutes. Ms. Kelly will be keeping that time. Ms. Paula, go ahead.
It's 179 Chestnut Drive, Lebanon. Twice in the school year, incidents occurred that made me feel my child is unsafe under the supervision of Lebanon High School. My daughter's 14, freshman. She was left unattended at the Wilson County Fair after the band performed. I had to work that day and was unable to attend the fair with her. But I left in plenty of time to get to her. In fact, I thought I would be waiting on her to get finished. 2 hours later, it took me over 2 hours to get from South Parkland to the fairground, which was less than 5 miles. So I was stuck in traffic. She was just left. Nobody stayed there. I had never heard of that before, that the kids weren't signed off to a parent or guardian from somebody with a band. So 2 hours later, I found her standing on the side of the road in the dark. She luckily was smart enough to stand with the cops with directing traffic, so she wasn't left in the fairgrounds by herself. But nobody made sure that she was taken care of before they left. They just left her. I might have just said my piece and moved on if that had been the only incident. But not less than 4 weeks after that, she calls me and says her bus never showed up to take her home from school. I get there, and well, on my way there, I counted at least 20 kids walking home. They'd given up on the bus and just started walking. What's the name? Grab one of those kids. And I get there, and she's still at the school, but kids are just roaming around unsupervised. There was no adult that I could see, and I drove completely around the school to look, see if there's anybody there watching them. I don't know if the bus ever showed up to take these kids home. I got my daughter, of course, and went on home. But 2 instances in less than 4 weeks has made me feel like she's not safe there. My older son went to Wilson Central. There was never a time that I felt that he was unsafe or unsupervised. Even at the Christmas parade, I had to sign him off the bus. Even that was broad daylight. I knew I wasn't going to do much then. But I felt he was taken care of so well that I let him go to New York City with the band. I would like to move my daughter to Wilson Central, or as a single mom, she's not my care. I feel that she's safe and being taken care of in the way she should be taken care of. And I'm asking the board to allow me to do that.
I have a question. In either of these cases, was the problem addressed with the band director, say for example, or the principal, especially if you didn't get in consideration? Did you talk to the principal about this or the director of schools?
I went the next, this was on a weekend, because I think it was a Sunday. I went the next morning to the high school. They could not find the principal. They didn't know where he's at. I waited approximately 30 minutes. They did bring a vice principal up, I think it was, and he said he was new there, he didn't know the situation, he'd get back to me. Well, I kind of felt like I hadn't been heard there, so I came immediately over here. I don't remember what her title is, but I spoke to a lady named Debbie and told her the situation, and she said she would pass that It wasn't long after that, I received a call from the band director. I don't know which director it was. I do not think it was Mr. Spears, but I can't remember who I was speaking to. Quite rude to me. You know, even insinuated it was my fault because the rest of the parents took off for work and went to the fair with kids. I'm a single mom of 4 with 2 in college. I can't take any work off, or the kids can't even be in the band. I work extra shifts so they can't do these things. And, you know, he's like, well, that's the way we've always done it. And then when someone from the board called me, all she said was, we're not over their budget, and it is our policy that they don't have to transport locally. And that was all she said. And that was the extent of the situation being addressed. And I did not call about the bus situation. That is when I originally filed to have her moved to Wilson Central, and did explain that in my original petition, which was denied, and I'm appealing before you now.
Did you not have any information about the schedule of the events at the fair? Anyone from the school itself explaining the criteria or the agenda for the students?
No. My understanding, of course, this is the first time I've had one in high school at Lebanon. Usually at Wilson Central, I'll receive a printout, an itinerary. Will come home with me. I did not receive that from Lebanon as far as the fair goes. I was told that they would be finished by 6. I left at 5, which thinking it was going to take me 5 minutes to get there. You know, and they were finished a few minutes after 6, and she's standing on the side of the road, let's see, till after 7. So it took me a little more than 2 hours to get to her. And there was at one point in time where she wasn't getting a signal on phone. I had 45 minutes. I didn't know where she was at or if she was okay or not at all. And honestly, I was panicking. But like I said, I've never, in any school that my kids have ever been in, I had one about to start his master's in music education, and one's a pre-law at MTSU. And so I've been a parent in the school system for a long time, and never have I been in a situation where even the slightest thing where they performed off campus, that I didn't have to go sign for those kids, sign them off a bus, or let some kind of acknowledgement that I was taking over their care. And I was told by the band director, well, I stayed there for 30 minutes. She didn't come to me and tell me she didn't have a ride. So I left. She didn't know she didn't have a ride. She didn't know it was going to take me no long any more than I did.
Ms. Hennis, not saying that we will or will not, but you understand if we did approve this, you would have to provide transportation
Absolutely.
to Central and back from Central?
I would be more than fine with that, and knew that was going to be the case. Like I said, my older son did go to Wilson Central, and when I came in a situation where I had to move out of the school district, at the time you guys were still allowing them to move between schools, and I had every intention of doing that. And felt like I gave Lebanon High School a very fair chance here. But it just has not lived up to the level of care and responsibility that Wilson Central that showed my other son. And I just want that same piece about my daughter. This is a girl. Boys are a little, take care of themselves a little more. This is a little girl. I want to know that she's safe at all times. Not where anybody can grab her at fairgrounds and I never see her again.
Anybody else? I will remind you that I think it's between February and March, there is an open enrollment time that you can put in a request and that your child can attend any school in the county.
Well, it's like I said, I mean, I felt like, this was the guidelines, the new guidelines y'all had set up. They went in their district, and I tried that, Even when I moved out of Wilson Central District, I had every intention of transporting her back and forth to Wilson Central. But I tried to follow the guidelines, and this is what happened, and I really would prefer, like I said, There's just one of me. I've been raising these kids on my own for 13 years. And they're good kids, they're honor students. The oldest two doing well in college. But it's because I have been an attentive parent. I've been there. I have made sure that they were safe. I've made sure that they were doing what it took to get their college educations, get the academic scholarships and music scholarships and all. I've been a diligent parent, and I'm ahead of all that comes their safety.
Thank you for being here tonight, Paula, and you had a rather lengthy letter here in our agenda, and you've addressed some things that
I chose to address what I thought was most important.
Yeah, I know you did, and I think it's important that we talk to Mr. Walters. He's not here tonight, I don't think.
He planned on being here.
Okay, he's not here tonight, but there's some issues some things that you addressed in here that I think that we need to talk to him about and let him tell us his side of the story and maybe bring up some of the things that you talked about with the band that he needs to look into. But I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would like to make a motion for the best interest of this child that she be allowed to move to Wilson Central. I'd do that in form of a motion.
I'd second that.
There's a motion on the floor. We got a second that this request be made, and any discussion?
I would just like to, not that I don't want the best safety of your child, any child, but that's also the next thought in my head, is that until we talk with the administrators ourselves or have Ms. Dr. Wright to do so, we want to ensure the safety of all the other students as well.
Absolutely.
And moving one student without addressing the whole entire issue is perhaps a little quick to not solve a problem.
Granted, this was my first time living in high school. We actually, I approved my kids and got them out of Davidson County and moved them to Wilkes County for this very reason. I wanted to give them the best shot at an education. I'm a waitress. My ex took off. I've been raising them on my own. But I was going to make sure that they didn't fall through the cracks. And that's why I moved them out here, to give them the best shot at education in a safe environment. And they feel like they were safe at Davidson at all. Anywhere you look, let's be honest about it. And I felt like that's the case here. And I chose Wilson County for that reason.
Mr. Chairman,
I think we don't have to have one hinging on the other. I think we can continue to investigate the root cause of the problem. At the same time, allow this woman some peace of mind by having her child at Wilson Central. I don't think one necessarily hinges on the other.
I agree, Mr. Weathers, that we can do both. One doesn't have any respect to the other. And saying that, I would call for the question.
I think Dr. Wright has something she'd like to say.
I just need to make a response. Mr. Walters had every intention of being here tonight because he was concerned enough that when you wrote your initial letter, he had some very strong responses to some of your questions and concerns, and his daughter had basketball practice and did not have any way of getting her there. So, again, he did have some very strong responses. We also received a letter Friday afternoon from Mr. Green in concern about your request and concern about his daughter, even though he did acknowledge that he did not have decision rights, and said that she had adjusted well and was doing well at school.
Oh, our school, I have no problems with the level of education she's receiving. That's not an issue at all. You're right, Mr. Green. I'm going to be honest, he likes to play daddy every once in a while. And so
he wrote a very nice letter. He
Yes.
did not say anything derogatory, but it was a concern for his daughter.
I understand that
her need of wanting to stay at school. So that needed to be presented.
Right.
And so, in fairness to what has taken place, and Mr. Walters also wanted to be here as far as to respond to your concerns. And again, he had some very strong responses.
Well, I take them Everywhere they have to go, everything they have to do, I'm the only parent involved in everyday life. And I would be responsible to get her back and forth to us solely.
So if moving your daughter to the other school, is that gonna make it easier for you to, fulfill the obligations of picking her up and doesn't that seem to be more of a
Absolutely.
hardship?
One of the reasons I am a waitress is so that I have a flexible schedule. I can put my kids first. And so we'll be able to transfer her back and forth. Being able to skip work completely to go spend the day at the fair, I could. There are limitations. But I can't get her there and back and forth. And there, if one gets sick or something, won't see her and end up in and go to the hospital. And that's why I do that.
This question's been called for. Mr. McNeese's motion was to grant the transfer on the basis of doing what's in the best interest of the student. All in favor of granting the transfer, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Right, Ms. Arms?
I would like to see more about it now.
That's the way I felt about
As long as you understand that you'll have to provide the transportation and everything, and you also have the opportunity to get this done later on next year. But if you feel that it's that important and you're that concerned about the safety of your child, then I think that's the only fair thing for us to do.
And it's also the semester.
And Dr. Wright just pointed out a good point here that it is mid-semester.
If you guys would prefer that I wait to the end of this semester, I'll honor that.
That would be in the best interest of your child.
That would be in the
Yes.
best interest of your child.
I will honor that. And we'll transfer in January then.
That would be in her best interest.
Okay, that will be fine. Thank you guys,
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Coach Purvis, here. Come on up, Mark. Please state your name, address, and subject of your presentation. Your topic must be specific in nature, dealing only with causes of procedure. You reserve the right to terminate remarks at any time. If you fail to hear the guidelines of your comments may become abusive of an individual board member, the board's home, director, student, or employee, student, assistant. The board should have no obligation to respond, and at the conclusion of your remarks, the board and the director of schools shall have the privilege to ask questions. Coach, you'll be granted 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, Mark Purvis, 517 Cherry Blossom Way, Lebanon, Tennessee, and from Mountain Juliet High School, and here to request approval to add to our baseball facilities. Looking to, we have aluminum bleachers behind our backstop that were provided when the school was built, and we're looking to add some seating to that. In the center section will be chairback seats. Got a picture there of it. And then on the sides, which will be general admission, will be what they call just the seat planks, individual seats, but not a back. If we put a back on those, we have to take out every other row, which will lose some of our seating. So with codes and all that, we have to, if we do the chair backs, we have to take out every other row and add a brace there. So, and eventually, if this is approved and we continue on with it, and it goes well, we're looking to maybe add some to the sides on each side towards our dugout where we have some open spots there where a lot of people stand. But two things: one, give the people at the games a better seat, but also we have a lot of problems with glare off those bleachers in the evening games, especially in tournament time. We have a 4 o'clock game. A lot of balls get lost in the glare from the bleachers, so this will help with the seats, but also provide it'll blacken out the bleachers, so the glare will be a lot less during that time. So all funding will go through the baseball program. We're looking at different ways, different avenues to do it, and that's the request.
Any questions, Coach?
I move we approve, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Motion second, any discussion?
Just one question, no debt, right?
Correct.
No what?
No debt.
No debt, no, it's all taken out of your budget.
Yes, sir.
You had a very successful golf tournament here a couple of weeks ago.
Sir, thank you for that.
Yes, sir. And, any other questions? Any other discussion? All in favor of Coach Purse's request for the seating at the Mount Juliet Baseball Complex, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let it show the pass unanimously. All right.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you. Addison Rogers.
Yes, sir.
President, you said you want to speak on the sixth grade directional.
Yes, sir.
While you're making your way up there,
Yes, sir.
please state your name, address, and the subject of your presentation. Your topic must be specific in nature, dealing only with the policies and procedures, and we reserve the right to terminate remarks at any time you fail to adhere to the guidelines, or that your comments become abusive to an individual board member, the board as a whole, or the director of schools, or any employee of the school system, then the board shall have no obligation to respond. And at the conclusion of your remarks, the board and the director of schools shall have the privilege to ask questions. Since you weren't on the agenda to start with, you've only got 3 minutes, Addison, so get started.
Thank you. My name is Addison Rogers. Address is 5592 Hunters Point Pike, Lebanon, Tennessee. My motivation for speaking tonight is due to the denial of parents to speak before the board at the last meeting. With that said, I would like to discuss the things that I feel the parents would have liked to address at that meeting concerning the 7th grade curriculum that's being taught in history. First thing I would like to discuss is a video that was shown at 7th grade history class at Carroll Oakland. Several parents can confirm the video was shown. It's a 2-part PBS video that talks directly about modern day Islam, which goes against the curriculum. Part 1 discusses about the Muslim Hajj, and every Muslim must attend that if health and wealth provide. It tells a story of a CNN reporter that says he was a Christian, but he praises Islam over Christianity after his conversion. It also shows his wife, who's a professed Christian in the video, and a child they have that studies both faiths. It even shows the man praying out to Allah during part 1. Part 2 of the video again shows present day Muslim rituals. The journalist is shown after Hajj and walking around the Kaaba 7 times. He says it is a huge sacrifice and no one would perform such a sacrifice except for Allah, and that Allah will reward him. If that video had been shown about a Christian taking a trip to Calvary, I'm sure someone would make a big deal about it. I want to discuss is the test that was given in that same history class, which I have a copy of if you all would like to see that tonight. The test also breaks the curriculum in several ways. One of the ways it breaks the curriculum is causing the students to memorize the 5 pillars of Islam. With that being said, also, I imagine that same test would not be given issued to the students, forcing them to memorize the 10 Commandments. The third and last thing I want to discuss is the textbook that's being studied and taught to our 7th graders. That textbook I've studied over the last couple weeks. Muhammad is mentioned 45 times. Jesus is mentioned 35, 5 of which is a direct comparison to Muhammad himself. Muhammad is built up to be a saint in the textbook. It says he married wealthy and prospered in business on page 78. He had the responsibility of clarifying God's truth on page 79, and page 81 of the textbook says he is considered the best role model. The Quran is mentioned 28 times in the textbook, where the Bible is only mentioned 4 times. After many conversations with Mark Pody and several others, it is my understanding that the school board does have some responsibility in approving or vetoing the textbook. The textbook can be chosen by any publisher within the last 10 years. 1 Corinthians 15:58 tells us to stand firm. That's what we're going to do. I do have a copy.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
Addison, you approached me, we talked last week a couple times.
Yes, sir.
Well, I do not disagree with anything that you said tonight?
Yes, sir.
I think you did mislead me on what you were gonna talk about. You were gonna talk about 6th grade curriculum.
7th grade.
You told me 6th grade curriculum. And that is not what you discussed. Now, I agree with it, but you kind of misled me in that direction.
What's the difference between teaching it to a 6th grader and a 7th
Right.
grader?
Come
on,
there's
no
no
difference.
Only time them over.
I mean, that's 6th grade, 7th grade, regardless.
6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, who cares?
It's wrong.
Garbage doesn't
It's
even cost.
absolutely wrong.
Pardon?
It's wrong to teach them that.
I didn't say I agree, I didn't agree with it. I agree with you, with him 100%, but he misled me.
I never misled you, sir.
Yes.
If I did, I apologize. That was not my intention to mislead you.
I'm not gonna let you steal on, but you gotta, I thought you were
That was not
honest with
mine.
me.
As I will look into this, what you allowed as far as the video that
Yes.
shown, that will be checked into and investigated.
I have a copy of the information if you all would like.
Well, look, we will investigate. I can
Sure.
promise and assure you of that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anything about that? All right. Next item of business is we adopt the agenda, approve the consent agenda. And, I think we want to call item number 19, the RFP for the land for the high school.
Yes,
If
sir.
that's okay with you, Dr. Wright, we'll
Yes,
pull
sir.
that one until a later time. Any other changes we need to make to the, approve the consent agenda?
That was 919.
That was item number 19. Yes, sir. The RFP, we're pulling that off the agenda tonight.
We're letting the kids go.
Oh, just look, we'll just, sorry, student board members, if you let them speak tonight.
Oh, yes, I will look to them. We need to get them out here where they want to stay. All right, student board members, all right, who wants to go first? All right.
Hi, for y'all that don't know, I'm Smith Anthony from Wilson Central, and what we kind of do is just tell you all what's going on with our schools. So, this past Saturday, Wilson Central held their very first trunk or treat for some of the surrounding elementaries. That went really well. It was a good turnout besides the rain and all that good stuff. Tonight, actually, our school was having a parent meeting about SASC, the Southern Association of Student Councils, because next fall, Wilson Central will be hosting, so that's when hundreds of students come from all of the southern region, and they learn about leadership, and they go into detail about that. They do a community service project. They get to go out into Nashville and see what Nashville is like. Also, our fall play, Blind Spirit, is this Thursday through Sunday. If you want more information on that, I can get that for you. And we have a dance show coming up November 12th and 13th, which I'll be in. Everybody come see me dance. Senior year. We're also about to start posting exchange students. I know they always look for lots of households that want to do that. So if you want to do that, I can also get you information on that. And lastly, our community service project that was going on at our school this past month was a Goodwill drive, and they had students bring in old things that they didn't want anymore. And they went through it, cleaned it, and they're taking it to Goodwill, and they had tons of stuff. So that was a good
And so now explain exactly what you're talking about, that student group that's coming. Why is it so important when you're talking about all students coming across the state?
For the SSC. Well, for us,
SSC.
Southern Association of Student Council, so it's a 3-day convention, and it's held different places. This past fall, it was held in Louisiana, right outside New Orleans, and it gives students the opportunity to meet new people. They get outside of their skin. They learn like speaking skills, leadership skills, responsibility, and hosting it here is a big deal because we're considered president, which means we're like over everything. We have to plan it, we have to fund it, we have to get everything that we're going to need, hotels, transportation. So next month I will have papers for you all regarding more information about help that
more.
yeah, of course. Help, if you want to help, we're going to take any hands because we need a lot. It's a big deal. So looking forward to
I'm Alexis Basvella from Lebanon High School. I want to start tonight by just kind of thanking the board and everybody in Wilson County that supported our senior class recently.
and the loss of one of our classmates, Whit Robertson. It's been a lot of love and a lot of support, and we want to thank you all for that. This past month and past couple of months, we've been doing our canned food drive. That all of the we raised right around 19,000. We collected right around 19,000 cans and about $750, and that all goes to our help center. They're actually going to be picking it up this week, so it all goes to help feed local people here in Wilson County. Beta Club is hosting the Warmth for the Winter drive this month, and they're just collecting warm clothes, and I think that's also going to go to the help center to just keep it in Wilson County and just kind of keep the people of our county warm. Senior night football game was this past Friday, and we celebrated all of our fall sports seniors, including band and ROTC, and that went really well. We didn't win the game, but it's okay, it was fun. Coming up, we have International Education Week. Student Council's going to host that, and that's just celebrating education from around the world. So if you guys have any connections to students around the world, we'd love for your input. We're going to see if we can set up some Skype interviews to get them to answer some questions for us about what it is like going to school in other countries and stuff like that. So we're really excited about that. That's a new project we're doing. I want to finish by always inviting the board and anybody that's here to come and visit Lebanon High School whenever. We'd love for you guys to tour, get a student's perspective on some stuff that's happening around the county and our school. So you guys are welcome anytime. Just call us up. We'll order there. So thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.
I'm Austin Wells from Watertown High School, and I think I'd like to start off by saying fall break is over. Which that carries the hard part. Next, I'd like to say we did start our first round of Tennessee Range Days. I know we're looking forward to that. Tennessee Promise, I'd like to commend our faculty, staff, administration. As of 8:45 this morning, apart from our foreign exchange students, we have 100% registration on that. Senior night was Friday. I know we won 42-6, I believe. And anybody, please come out and support us this Friday night in our home playoff game. I think we're playing a school from Chattanooga. We recently had a domestic violence assembly at school. We learned all about our resources and outreach programs that we need to we can contact for that. I think that was done by, was it Home Safe? Youth Safe? Something like that. Basketball season is coming up, so come out and support us for that. And clothing drive, we currently have, I think it's sponsored by National Honor Society, so anybody that'd like to bring new, used, whatever clothing you have left over at home, we'd appreciate your contributions to that. And I'd like to invite the board as well, anybody that wants to come visit our new school. Come out and see us. We're not that far of a drive, so thank you.
I'm Jonas Sage. I'm from Mount Juliet High School, and this past Friday we had senior night, and before we had a big pep rally, and we even congratulated 3 cross-country players who went to state or are going to state for their performance against regionals. We played against McGavick. Unfortunately, we lost, but there was a huge award from all the seniors at Mount Juliet. We acknowledged all the senior cheerleaders, football players, and the band members with their parents, so that was a big moment for them. Last month I talked about the bracelets that we were donating or giving away at the football game for Bishop, and that continued on for the whole month, and the total was just a little over $1,200. So that was a huge moment for Bishop as we celebrated that during the pep rally as well. We did also sell cookies at the school for breast cancer awareness for donations. We sold, I don't know how much we sold, but I know a lot of people bought a ton of cookies. Also, they're really good, so that was a plus. During fall break, one of the benefits we had was the whole broadcasting class for Mount Juliet. We did a 30-second video on Celebrate My Drive, and we did the video to promote safe driving and not texting and driving, always keeping your eyes on the road. And you can always check that out on the website. Our videos there along with other schools.
Thank you. Any questions from the board to the board members? Ladies and gentlemen, y'all feel free to leave anytime you don't know you have homework you probably need to do. Miss Kelly, if you would remind me when we were putting the consent agenda again, let's move them up to the top.
Absolutely. Will that work for you all?
Will that help you all in?
That'd be great.
If we get you up
Do you want to go further than
where they are now.
You and I do that, okay? You're welcome. Mr. Weathers requested a 5-minute recess, so we're gonna recess. All right. Approved changes, all in favor of adopting the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. They shall pass unanimously. Approval of minutes of October 5th, 2015 board meeting. Your motion's approved.
Move we approve.
All right. Everything else on there, executive committee items, we already taken care of that. Let's move on into item number 7, report from county attorney. Mr. Jennings.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I've got several things I need to talk to you about tonight. I'll work through them as quickly as I can. First of all, let me bring you up to date on the recent hearing involving Matthew Mock. I want to give you some information here tonight, and I'll answer any questions you have. I will tell you that there is some misinformation floating around out there, and I hope I can clear that up for you to proceed. We had a 3-day hearing in this case on September 17, 18, and 21. It was almost 24 hours of witnesses and exhibits presented. The school system presented 8 witnesses. I had 10 more available that would have been cumulative. 58 exhibits were introduced. There were 3 certified formal charges brought. Those charges were conduct unbecoming to a member of the teaching profession, neglect of duty, and insubordination. The charging letter that you folks were presented with by Dr. Wright presented over 30 different factual allegations in support of the charges. They were not the charges. There are only 5 stated charges, statutory charges, that allow you to dismiss a tenured teacher. The letter that you were presented was in support of those charges. There seems to be some confusion in the areas of the public about that. Those are not the charges. Those 3 things that I just noted are the charges. Prior to the hearing officer submitting his decision, each side was given the opportunity to present findings of fact and conclusions of law. Mr. Clemens submitted on behalf of Mr. Mock, and I submitted on behalf of the school system. Nothing submitted in either of these documents is the decision. Nothing. It's the lawyers. It's very similar to the lawyers giving a final argument in a jury case. That's what those are. So anything you read from that is opinion. What does matter is what the hearing officer entered in a 16-page decision on October the 23rd. The hearing officer chose to identify, he went at it in a little different way. He chose to identify some facts that he said were not proven. But he didn't go through everything else in detail that was proven. And I'm not going to either because it took 24 hours, so don't get too concerned about that. But I do want to tell you what he found and what he said. And this is not me paraphrasing. I'm going to read it to you here in just a minute. The hearing officer found that the charge of neglect of duty was not met, so that one's out. He did find insubordination. He did find conduct unbecoming to a member of the teaching profession. The statute under which the charges were brought is entitled, in part, dismissal or suspension of teachers. A hearing officer can find either one. This hearing officer chose a 1-semester suspension without pay. In an email dated October 28, 5 days later to both counsel, he states the appropriate sanction as to that statutory cause is the 1-semester suspension without pay. What else did he say specifically in the order? And I've seen this in some instances. I've seen it quoted partly in some instances, but I'm going to read it to you what he said so that there's no misunderstanding. The hearing officer finds that Mr. Mock's behavior on May 28, 2015 was clearly juvenile and unbecoming a teacher with 14 years experience. He even quoted scripture from 1 Corinthians 13:1, the King James Version, that says, "But when I became a man, I put away childish things." The hearing officer finds that the charges in this case did meet the definition of conduct unbecoming a member of the teaching profession and in violation of the teacher's code of ethics. His statement, not mine. Mr. Mock's actions were immature, if not downright silly. While finding that the conduct did not justify Mr. Mock's dismissal, the hearing officer stated, and I'm reading word for word, "However, the keys to his career are in his hands. If there is further evidence of conduct unbecoming a member of the teaching profession in the form of joke playing that gets out of hand, then based on this history, it should result in his dismissal as a tenured teacher, thereby resulting in the loss of his teacher's license. Now, that's the end of his statement. What I'm about to say is that is similar, although there's no criminal charge. I don't want anybody to misunderstand it. That's similar to a judge finding and putting somebody on probation. Okay? And then he said something that was very important for us because we have a duty. We don't have an option. The school system had evidence of possible harassment of an employee in a protected class. Now, the key word there is possible. The hearing officer stated, in the face of allegations that an employee of a protected class was being harassed, the Wilson County school system had no alternative but to investigate the matter. The surest way for a school system as a whole to incur liability due to discrimination of any kind is to ignore it. The school system in this instance did its job. Now, as I've said, 2 out of the 3 statutory charges were proven to the satisfaction of the hearing officer. What he believed to be the appropriate discipline in this case is that the suspension from the Wilson County school system without pay from the beginning of the 15-16 school year until the end of the first semester. The hearing officer went on to state, and again, these are his words, not mine, this decision is not to be construed to tell the school administration where Mr. Mock should teach. In other words, the decision of placement of Mr. Mock in the second semester of this school year will be by the Wilson County Director of Schools. That is my language. I want to clear that up. There were at least 2 other factual matters that the school system believes supported the dismissal of Mr. Mock as a tenured teacher. We were not allowed to introduce evidence of those matters. Now, it's my understanding from my conversation and what I've read that Mr. Mock does not intend to appeal the hearing officer's decision, so I think we're probably at the conclusion of this matter. But I wanted to clear some of those things up because, frankly, there's a lot of things floating around out in cyberspace that I don't recognize. So I'll be glad to try to answer any questions you may have about it.
Just one. Can I get a copy of that, sir?
But what I did?
Yeah. Well, what you just presented to us and the arbitrator's findings.
Oh, yeah, I'll be glad to give you a copy.
Yes.
These are my notes. If you want them, you're welcome to them.
No, you probably got a lot of, no. That'd be fine too.
Thought you might want them for your Hall of Fame or something. I didn't know.
Only if you'd sign them for me.
Well, I can do that. All right, we have another, is there any other questions on that? And I will tell you up front, I would ordinarily have not been as specific about this to you and reporting it to you had I not read some things in the last few days that frankly troubled me. And so I wanted to let you know. That's why I'm doing that. This is not anything other than trying to clear up what will happen and what the decision is. We have another matter pending that should have been tried several weeks ago. The lady who the charges were brought against, sought a continuance back. The case was set for hearing on August 26th of this year. She requested a continuance due to a family medical reason. We certainly thought that was a very valid reason, and we agreed to that. The matter was reset, and a few days before the second time, she again requested a continuance, and the hearing officer granted it. It was set for October 26th for the third time, which was a week ago today. And as a part of the second continuance, the hearing officer agreed with my suggestion that we have a conference call a week in advance to find out if she in fact was going to pursue this. And we had that conference call, we had the call. And her attorney said he had received no information from her whatsoever that she wasn't going to proceed. So we prepared for that hearing. And on the afternoon of October 23rd, about mid to late afternoon of that Friday, Dr. Wright received a letter from a professional who said that this lady was not able to sit through a trial. Now, that had been the purpose for the hearing, for the conference call a few days earlier to find out if that was going to happen or not before we put any more time into this. Let me say this on both these hearings. You've got a lot of people on your staff that are working very hard, and they have helped prepare for both of these hearings. And I was trying to limit that as best I could. If we weren't going to go ahead, we didn't need to take these people away from their jobs and from the classroom. And I'll tell you, in that case, there's 30-something potential witnesses lined up and over 100 exhibits if we do get to trial. I sent that letter to didn't send it to the lawyer, didn't even send it to her lawyer. I had to tell him about it. The letter was sent to the hearing officer on Sunday before our scheduled hearing on Monday, and I told him that I was going to file a motion to dismiss her request for a hearing. We heard that at the time the hearing was scheduled, and he ordered that records be provided to him by a day after tomorrow, justifying her request. If not, he will dismiss, or he's indicated he'll dismiss her request for a hearing, and your action back in July will stand. If she does provide the information he's requested, then you'll make a decision as to how to proceed. But we do not have a trial date set on that right now. That's the other one that's pending. And I will tell you that it is set. The last one took 3 days, this one's set for 4.5. So, a lot of work there. Any questions about that? Okay, I gave you a letter tonight regarding the Mount Juliet liquor tax case. I guess I ought to clean that up a little bit, if that's what it is. It's over the liquor tax. And that doesn't contain a new offer, but it does contain the possibility of a new offer. And I don't know exactly how to present it to you. Other than that, you can look at that. I know you just got it earlier this evening. I laid a copy of it on your desk. At this point in time, I would appreciate you would treat that as attorney-client confidential. If you choose to take action on that tonight, that's fine. If you don't want to, I understand that as well. Just getting still some things probably that ought to be fleshed out, but at least we are still talking. Final thing I will mention to you, I have received addressed to me dated October 28th, and I got it, trying to think when I did get it. I think I got it today. It might have been Friday. I'm not sure. I don't want to mislead you. From the American Center for Law and Justice, who has requested, in their words, a scaled-down version of a previous open records request. They had requested 12 broad categories of public records. They have now reduced it to 10. What I am going to do, because of the volume of this, is I'm going to send what's called a 7-day letter, which if I respond within 7 days, and give them a date as to when these records will be available, or a decision on whether or not they're available, and also to estimate the cost. I will tell you that from what I have been able to gather today, every school district in the state of Tennessee got a similar letter. So probably, it's going to take some time to get this together. I mean, it's not a tactic, it's a fact. But I am probably going to visit with Tennessee Council of School Board Attorneys. We meet in 13 days, and I'm probably going to see what's going on statewide with these things. So I wanted to bring you up to date on that. I don't really have anything that requires action tonight unless you have something you want to take action on, or if you have a question of me about anything that's going on. As you can tell, we've been pretty busy. Doesn't look like it's going to let up for a while. If ever.
I have a question for you. Yes, in the last few days, there's been a lot written and said about clubs within our schools. Senator Beavers contacted one of the board members about the club and said that, and with you being well versed in school law, she said that we had the right to deny a non-curriculum club. That's not what we understand.
You can deny a non-curriculum club, but if you do, you have to deny them all.
You have to deny them all.
When you create a limited public forum, and that's the language it's used. It's a 1990 law from the United States government law that was ruled upon by the Supreme Court. Let me back up on that. The law predates the 1990 Supreme Court case. But when you create a limited public forum, you have to make it available for anything, any type of after school or after teaching and curriculum club. Now, if you go that route, you're talking about cutting out everything. You're talking about cutting out Fellowship of Christian Athletes, you're talking about cutting out chess club, you're talking about cutting out anything that's one of the clubs that we have in the various schools. Yes, you could deny that, but you'd have to deny them all. But if you don't deny them all, then if they meet our policy with a sponsor, then they have to be allowed to meet. That's a scaled down version of what it says. The law is very specific, and the Supreme Court cases has upheld that law. There's been some more statutes passed by the state of Tennessee following up on that law, and they were designed to make sure that religious clubs did not get cut out. And those are much more recent. One is as late as 2014. Just another one of those challenges we face in the school system.
Where are we at with mine too?
They have filed a motion to dismiss. They've not set it for hearing. I've read through it. It's very lengthy. I will be responding to it. They cite 2 decisions in the state of Tennessee that say we don't have the standing to bring this lawsuit. I have one decision from Chattanooga that says we do. It's one of those cases that the lawyers talk about being ripe to law out. We're still talking. Obviously, I think we're some distance apart, although we are talking. And I got the letter that I gave you tonight. I got it late this past Friday afternoon, or I would have gotten it to you quicker. But there's also another party involved here that we need to be mindful of. It's not just us in the city of Mount Juliet, but it's also the 11 special school district. So they get a cut of any funds we get. So we'll continue talking on that one, and that's about all I'm going to tell you.
Any other questions for the attorney? Anybody? Move that his report be received and filed and approved. All right, got a motion by Mr. Willis. Here's a second by Mr. Robinson. Any further discussion? If not, county attorney's report been approved. Report from the director of schools, Dr. Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You all have a copy of my report set in front of you, as well as a copy of the internal audit report, as well as the county budget for your bedtime reading right there. And the audit report, very good. The thing that you will note towards the end of the packet, as far as that they still noted as far as segregation of duties, and that's something that's hard to address as far as when you look at our staffing. But again, it's a very good report and good outcomes. Just as an update, the Department of Education released the annual report card Thursday, October 22nd, and for the 4th consecutive year, and I know you probably, this sounds like a broken record, but it bears repeating, Wilson County Schools earned all A's for achievements in grades 3 through 8 for math, reading, language arts, and science. Wilson County Schools earned a composite level 5, the highest attainable in all subject areas. Results from the report card, and I bulleted it out for you there. The district obtained all A's in grades 3 through 8 for achievement. The district's graduation rate is 95.7%, surpassing the state average by 7.9%. The district has a 20 composite score on the ACT, up from 19.7 last year, and we've discussed this already as far as the significance of when you see a 1/10 of a point, the percentage of students eligible for the Hope Scholarship. And that's something I want to start bringing more information to you on that. It's 43.3%, up from 41.7% last year, because again, those are serious financial implications for parents if they understand why we emphasize particularly the ACT. It's not so much as to get the youngsters in school, but also make sure that they can retain and keep that scholarship once they're in school. As recognized and celebrated early in the year, Wilson County Schools had 5 reward schools: Lakeview Elementary, Gladeville Elementary, Mount Juliet Elementary, Mount Juliet High School, and W.A. Wright Elementary. We had the most schools recognized as reward schools for both achievement and growth than any school district in the state of Tennessee. All the mentioned schools ranked in the state's top 5% for overall achievement. However, W.A. Wright, Gladeville, and Mount Juliet High School ranked in the top 5% for their scores in both achievement and performance, and gave you where you could go and see the report card and the website. Earlier tonight, we recognized 10 schools, 11 schools, Catherine corrected me, that earned all A's in achievement. And this, again, I'm going to emphasize that is a huge achievement, and Watertown Middle School would have been included, but last year was their first year of its existence, and I expect them to join the success. We had 88 new students to enroll after fall break, 62 at the K-8 schools and 26 at the high schools. Rutland Elementary had 10 new students and Lebanon High School had 16. Well, they really had 20. 4 additional students enrolled at the end of the reporting week. And enrollment as of October the 19th, including pre-K, 17,597. We are one of 4 counties out of 15 that have seen all high school seniors apply for Tennessee Promise. And you heard Austin tonight from Watertown talking about their 100%. We have 100% at all 4 high schools. However, we are 66 mentors short of having enough adults to assist these young people in their post-secondary application process. Dr. Bergen, is that number decreased?
It's decreased, yes.
Okay, so we're getting closer?
A lot closer.
Okay, thank you. And something of note, we've been asked to send a school representative to meet with Bridgestone Corporate in Carmel and Bloomingdale, Illinois, November 3rd and the 10th. Metro Davidson, Williamson, and Sumner counties are also invited to present to their upper-level executives who will be relocating in Middle Tennessee region. Amelia Hips has put together a really nice digital packet that is unique. I have to bring it out so you can show it and shake it down here a little bit. This key has everything on this key. I want you to look at this. And that will be the presentation as far as representing Wilson County schools and all the good things about it and why we're going to share why Wilson County is the place to be. And so with that, she's going to be our rep tomorrow. Is it Carmel tomorrow or Bloomingdale?
Bloomingdale tomorrow.
Bloomingdale tomorrow. So she is going to be competing, I'm going to put the pressure on, with Metro, Sumner, and Williamson County. And we play to win. And so the thing that's also unique about this is something that our realtors and our chambers are also interested in because, again, when you think about that, something you can carry and it represents the district. So we wish her well on that. I want to note something, again, Veterans Day being next week, November the 11th. We've had several concerns from some of our veterans wanting to know why we're not out of school on that day. And it's a fair question. It's something that, we've heard over the years. And the response has been that that is an opportunity for us, not only to have our kids in school, but for them to hear about what Veterans Day means. And for them to really get a good perspective, because again, it could be a school holiday, but that's a day lost as far as having taken that opportunity. We have kids that are going to be participating in events at their school. There's going to be programs that are in place. In fact, Ms. Hips has been collecting that information. Our JRTC will be participating in several veteran memorials, and so that's a day that we do take and pay tribute to our veterans. And again, as I said, we've had several questions as far as why we're not out of school. We use that opportunity to make sure that that's something that's not only memorialized, but make sure that they understand the real meaning of Veterans Day and our troops. I've nearly completed all of my individual school visits with principals to discuss last year's data and what direction they're taking this year. I'm really pleased as far as having that sit-down conversation with our principals and talking about not only their accomplishments last year, but their plan for this year. And they're really using the data, looking at it, and continuing to look at what they can do to make individual difference for all our boys and girls. And so that's been unique and also a very turn from when we started the conversation last year and what we're talking about now. We'll talk again midpoint, and this is not excluding the visits that I'm in the schools all the time, but also at the end of the year to see if they're on target. You've already been notified as far as the dedication ceremony and open house for Carol Oakland, Sunday, November 8th at 2 p.m. And you have a copy of the county surplus auction that's scheduled for Friday, November 13th attached to your packet. It'll be at the Wilson County Ag Center. And just to note that last month was National Principals Month declared by Governor Haslam. I just remind you of this, even though we're now into November, just to really acknowledge as far as the work that our administrators and the responsibilities that they bear as well as they continue to do their job. But we have so much to take pride in, not only what they're doing, but also the hard work that our teachers are doing every day. And at the bottom, I've got some dates for you to remember: the Bridgestone visits, the Carol Oakland dedication, and then Mr. Tomlinson made a mention of the Commissioner of Education at Cumberland coming up. We will be co-hosting that, and its presentations will be available to surrounding districts board members. And so something that, and I know that the night's getting a little long here, but I've asked Marianne Sparks to provide a brief summary of where we are with teacher salaries. There's been some questions and continued confusion as far as making comparisons. And so she is going to give you a brief overview as far as where we are, second year into district pay plan, and then also to help us address what I call pain points that are still there that we are working on as well. So, Ms. Sparks.
Hi, and I will try to make this as brief because I know it's getting long, but it's important. And one of the things that we have heard a lot about lately is teacher pay. In 12-13, two things happened. One is we, as we had in years past, realized that we were woefully behind the other surrounding counties. Our beginning pay in 12-13 was $34,015. 12-13 was just 3 years ago. We were at $34,015. We have upped that beginning pay now to $39,000 for a beginning teacher. Teachers who come in and bring good scores for 3 years can make as much as $41,000. We have also increased the annual amount that a teacher can earn for performance. We do performance rather than experience, up to $850 a year. That is more than we used to pay on our experience chart. So what we have done is change the trajectory. We were down here and we weren't paying much each year. Now we're up here and we're paying a little more. We are not perfect. We do have pain points, but we changed the trajectory. I've put some things at your chairs. One of them's a colored sheet like this. And these figures, it's the figures for the other counties are a year in arrears because that's what's available right now. But if you will look, Davidson County beats everybody. So I colored them orange and just went on about my business. But if you look at the other counties, Wilson County is competing. Wilson County continues to compete as we continue to add that additional performance pay every year. In fact, we don't look bad in the 0 through 5 range right now at all. And we don't look bad in the 25-year range. Where we do at 10 years is comparable to about the second place there. Where we are falling down is the 15-year. If you'll look at a 15-year bachelor's degree, ours is lower than any other school system listed there. So there's kind of a mid-range of teachers. These teachers are wonderful teachers. We've upped the pay from the bottom of the scale. We've now allowed teachers who are at the top of the scale to start earning a raise again. But teachers in the middle, we know, have some concerns. They're not making less than they were. And they are making more than they would have under our old plan. They're doing better on this plan than they would on our old plan, but they see new teachers coming in making a lot, and they're concerned, and we understand that concern. But what I want to say to you is we also had concerns about advanced degrees, and we worked on that. We had concerns about some test scores in 13-14, and rather than give anybody a problem with that, we looked at a way to give the best of 12-13 scores or 13-14 scores. Dr. Wright, and I think you all are very committed to having competitive teacher scores that reward our teachers for doing a good job in the classroom. I'm very passionate about that. Number one, I try to attract teachers to the system, but number two, those are the people that make our children who they are when they graduate, that help them grow as much as possible. So I will be happy to entertain any questions. I do want you to know that I said there were two things that happened in 12-13. One was we wanted to up our pay, but the other was that we were required by the state to do a differentiated pay plan, and that is what we did, a differentiated pay plan. Many other counties did that. One of the things we said was that ours would be sustainable. Some of the other counties are getting in trouble they have great bonuses out there, but they can no longer pay them because they may not have the grant that funded it, or they don't have the dollars to fund it. Sustainable means that it might not have that wow factor. It might not be $1,500 bonus for every teacher that makes a 5. But ours is on the right trajectory, and it's working its way up. So I wanted to give you that. And then also, there's one more, well, there's several things on your sheet, but I want to show you this data report for Wilson County Schools. This I took from some state reports. Just so you know, the retention of persistently high-performing teachers. Now, the definition for persistently high-performing teachers and persistently low-performing teachers is on this sheet. The high-performing teacher had to have scored within 3 years a total of 13. If she had a 5 or a 4 or 5, they had to have had at least 1 5. There's some parameters there. They're also for the persistently low-performing. If you will look at our district numbers, we have one of the lowest persistently low-performing numbers in the state. So low that Dr. Wright was asked to come talk to the directors of schools about this. We are 3.3% persistently low-performing teachers versus almost 3 times that number for the state. Also, our persistently high-performing teachers, and I give this to our teachers 100%, is significantly higher than the rest of the state. We have fabulous teachers, and they are staying with us. If you will look at the analysis of the teachers leaving the district, 71% of the level 4 and 5 teachers who left the district have not been rostered in another county.
What does that mean?
That means that they have retired, that they have moved out of state, or that they left the profession for something else. Most of those level 5 teachers, it's either they've moved out of state or they've retired. And that is actually on the top of the second page. That's defined down at the bottom, as well as it's telling you where our teachers went. I know I hear a lot about Rutherford County, and I do consider us in competition with Rutherford, but only 8 teachers went to Rutherford County. I'm told that 2 of those were coaches. So just to put it in perspective. Also,
Repeat that, man.
8 teachers went to Rutherford County, left our county to go to Rutherford County. The graph below there does show that 3 came to us from Rutherford, so we're excited about that. You know, I would like to show that we did attract 17 teachers, level 4 and level 5 teachers, from various other parts of the state. So, you know, we are making strides. We understand we have other ways to go, but we want our teachers to know particularly that we appreciate the job that they're doing, and we will continue to try to find every way to reward that.
And Mary, you know, one of the things that we've had questions about that, and you know, it's about concern when we're approached with it, as far as that, you know, I've been teaching a number of years, and you're hiring new teachers that are coming in at a higher rate than where I am right now. Why? How could that occur?
We're not hiring anybody at a higher rate than they are right now, because what we did with our teachers who had level 3, 4, or 5, we bumped them up to our minimum wage. They're not making less. There is not as much cushion. And some of those teachers took 10 years to get to that point, and we've got new teachers coming in at the same amount. That's what I said, we've got that middle group that have that point. But what I would say is, when we started this plan, we worked with a group of teachers. One of the things we wanted to do was to make sure that teachers made a living wage straight out of the gate. And our teachers did not make a living wage straight out of the gate. And now they do. And from then on, it is performance. There are performance growths. So,
And the number as far as that are level 3 through 5?
on the state report here, we had 1,028 that were level 3, 4, and 5.
Out of how many certified?
1,200. Yeah, 1,200. And of those, some of those are.
That's pretty impressive.
It really is. It really is. And again, hats off to the teachers.
Let me apologize for interrupting her, but I thought she made, you know, she was making some kind of disparaging remark about the relationship between coaches and educators, you know.
Mr. Robinson, I wouldn't do that.
You know.
But
So
I do
anyway,
know that
I
coaches sometimes leave a county they love for a coaching position.
Well, I didn't think you would say that, but I thought that's what Mr.
You took it
McNeese
personally.
said.
Marianne, if you didn't, you should have.
What is the percentage on the scores for the evaluations of the teachers when they are being evaluated? What is that percentage that is used when the level 3, 4, 5 is taken into account?
Tell me what.
How is that calculated?
On the
What
observation
percentage?
scores?
Observations and evaluations?
Well, this year, you almost have to have a high-level calculator to figure it out. When we started, it was 35% growth scores, 15% achievement scores, so that made 50% testing scores. And then we had 50% observation by the administration in the school. And that together gave you, and you can still use that as a ballpark. However, with 10 Ready coming on, new test scores fall typically in the first year, not because the students have not gained anything, it's just new test, new experience. So Governor Haslam introduced legislation to decrease the number, the percentage that growth scores have from our, and that will be made up with observations. Or your scores from previous years.
So that was the 15% that we...
15% is achievement. And just to give you much more weeds than you need, achievement this year is going to be mostly school-wide scores. Same reason, 10 Ready won't have a track record. They will be able to take scores in science, but it's probably information you need. Anything else?
So we
Yes, sir.
only had 14 teachers leave us last year? What you said?
4 and 5.
More than that, but what I said was 71% of the level 4 and 5 teachers who left the district haven't been rostered. The number of teachers who left is on the top of the second page, under total teachers who left, and it tells you what levels they were. That's 38 levels.
Bunch.
It is, it's about 100.
115.
And you do an exit.
I do an exit interview with the teachers. They don't have to participate in it. It's interesting though, they don't select salary as the reason they're leaving for the most part. Most of them select home and family. You've pretty much got 2 groups that leave from here consistently, one of those that retire, and the others are those very mobile families. Husbands get transferred, they leave and they go out of state. It's nice to have these state figures because that tells me that if they've gone into the state, where they've gone. And that to me was important. If they moved to East Tennessee or to Memphis, I don't worry about that as much because I don't think they did that. But if they're moving just right around this general area, that tells me they made a choice. And that's something I want to look at and find out why. Again, I don't think we're perfect, please don't. But I do think we're trying and we're working and we're listening.
That's about 8.5% turnover rate. That's not bad. That means we're holding on to 91, 92% of our teachers.
It was lower than what I was familiar with, and I thought Marion was going to bring that up because there's been a couple of times I've questioned it because it was not figures that I was, had seen in previous experiences. So
glad to know that the state indicated what we had said.
State validated it.
Yes, validated is the right word.
It's interesting to see how that they track these and how they keep up.
They are able to do that now. We actually roster. Part of my job or my department's job is to roster every single teacher that comes to us and leaves. So they are absolutely rostered throughout the state in under 3 different databases. We do that.
30 years.
The department doesn't, attribute to you and your department that you do incredible work keeping up with all of it.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you, what would you, for purposes of discussion for later on, to get that middle pay scale where we need to be?
I think we need to pay attention to sustainability, and I think we need to pay attention to, if we do something just for that group, how does it affect specifically the people above them. But some of the things we have tossed around, let me just say that we made a commitment to teachers 3 years ago that any money we gave them was going to be on their base pay. You can't take base pay away. It wasn't going to be, many of the other counties do a bonus. Hey, when the money runs out, sorry, there's no bonus, we're going to have to change our program. So ours is base pay. But for this amount, Right now, we've got new teachers who, when they get to 10, 15 years, are going to be okay. They're going to be okay. So we're talking about a finite group, and it may be that a bonus would be the right way to go. But we have to make sure it's sustainable. We want input from the teachers before we do anything like that, but it is something we're looking at.
And the question that I've asked, not only, Ms. Sparks and her department, but also is the question that I even posed to Mr. Hall, was that, are teachers better off today than they were 2 years ago when you look at pay?
Yes.
But then the thing is, as far as that sustainability becomes so important, because again, as you noted, there are quite a few districts, not several, quite a few districts that started off with great intentions and they've not been able to fulfill what they promised teachers.
And if you think of the fact that we've moved our current teachers along with us from 34,000 all the way up through 39, and next year 40, and even 41 and 42 for high-performing teachers, then they've gone a long way in 2 or 3 years. And those are not just new teachers; those are current teachers.
All right, let me ask you a question. Looking at this sheet here, you've got 5-year high, 41,000.
So on that, yes, it's 41 for our bachelors is our low, and 41,738 is our high.
If you add if they are level 5 teachers, they're bumping that $850 a year.
Yes.
Wouldn't a 5-year level, if they're a level 5 teacher, be 43,250?
You've done your math quicker than I have, but let's just say that this 41,738 we started it 3 years ago when they weren't starting at 39, they were starting at 38, and they may have been above the 41. So it has bumped them. If they ended up being under 41, we bumped them, but that 850's probably brought them up from 38, 39, 40, 41.
Okay, so.
But it will continue. Now, you're right. That 10-year going up to 15 will, and what I have found with, like Rutherford County, gives a nice starting salary, and then maybe there's not many years they get something, then they get like a $2,000 bump, and then there are not many years, so it's not a consistent average where ours is consistent all the way up. So I do think, as I said earlier, the trajectory of our teachers is in the right direction.
According to the way I've got this, if they're a level 5 every year, at 15 years, we're higher than Metro.
Well, Metro will manage to raise that.
I'm serious.
Yeah, I did the same math. I did the same math. Those starting at that 5-year mark are going to be better off. But again, they're going to raise theirs in 5 years too. So I just don't want it. We've got an opportunity for the first time to be competitive with systems around us. The first time. Y'all, I've been in this system a long time, and we've never been we've never been close to the other systems. We're getting there. So.
And quality of life does have to be.
Yes, sir.
I've been waiting patiently here. I do have a question, but I'm gonna go from certified to classified.
Okay.
How many groups do we have under classified? 1 through 15?
It depends on if it's hourly or salary, and it's 12 or 15.
Quite a few that we gotta go through. So basically, the only way that they get a raise is go from one classification to another?
Now, their pay grades, so their job, let's just say the job of, I don't know, secretary, an EA is a certain pay grade. But they do still have steps that they can go up year-wise. It still has an experience step on it. It's not every year, however.
Do we post those jobs?
1 through 3. We post them unless we have internal transfers, yes.
What about a new position? Have we added a new position here?
Here at the central office, we do have a new position.
And that position is?
It was an administrative assistant.
We can add those positions?
Mr.
Was that Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
So Mr. Wilson, we added an assistant to him,
Yes.
which we didn't advertise for.
We transferred internally.
We didn't post it, so a lot of people didn't have an opportunity. We moved a position to replace, I forget her name. Who took Monty Wilson's, who took that job?
Who took Monty's job? Sandy.
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 We moved a person out of payroll to that job.
That's correct.
Didn't post it.
No.
Then we hired a new person.
Which we interviewed for, but we interviewed.
Did we
Matt.
post anything?
We did not post those jobs.
So our current people ain't got a chance to move up in our organization, is what you're telling me.
Now, if you'll look, if you ask me if I posted those jobs, no, we did not.
Then that's-
Because we had internal, but we do post hundreds of jobs.
But the good cream of the crop job, we don't post.
I don't understand what you mean by that.
The better jobs, we don't post.
I disagree.
Proof is in the pudding. We didn't post those jobs. And we created the position. I didn't think we could create, spit on myself, I must be really, I thought only the board could create a position.
Well.
Because we never got a budget for that position.
In the type of position.
Pardon me?
In that type of position.
In that top position, the board can only create?
No. It's, the type of position's already been created.
Who created?
When it's a new budget out.
Yeah. I mean, we created a new position here. It ain't fair to a lot of folks already in our system.
Mr. McNeese, Monty Wilson, being a deputy superintendent, did not have an administrative assistant. And so we did an internal movement within this building as far as to make sure that he had someone to assist him.
I understand that, but we did not post that position.
No,
And we
did
created that position. Because it wasn't there before. I'm not saying he needed it or didn't need it. I'm just saying we created that position. Would that be true?
Because of lack of oversight as far as yes, we did, because he did not have someone to assist him.
Okay.
But it was internal, it was not something that when you're thinking of creating a new position, it was not as far as bringing someone in, it was already someone that was hired within the building.
Yeah, but we eventually brought somebody out to in at a different salary maybe, but we still eventually created a new job within the central office.
I'm trying to think of this, because again, her position was replaced with someone that was already here in payroll. So, I'm not sure.
The new hire you talking about?
No, I'm talking about the person that took
That created,
the
that took
position.
Sandy's job.
Sandy Haskell's job.
All right, but what about the person that took Sandy Haskell's job?
There were multiple bookkeeping and payroll positions advertised over this year. I would hasten to say there, and I can look it up for you how many people they interviewed, but I would say over 10, and they selected from that group.
But it bothers me that we don't post those positions.
I understand.
But the people out there that's
It's
working
not
for
the
us.
general rule. I will tell you that we post almost every position up here.
Well, I'm 3 for 3 right now.
I know it may not be the general rule, but what is the rule?
The rule, there is not a rule that says we have to post. It is best practice to post, and you will find that Mary Ann makes people post most of the time, if you ask anybody in this room.
But do we not owe it to our people to give them equal access to this job that might be
These were all
available?
filled by our people.
I know, but it's
No, we
those
don't.
that are not, those that are not, that don't get that job, that are not being considered. I've had a conversation about 1 or 2 employees in this system, and you told me when those people were interviewed for those positions, that y'all were blown away. You weren't expecting the result you got, and that you were blown away by those people when they did their interview. So what we're saying here is that we might be missing something.
Yes, sir.
And what
I have
do-
made
what
that
do
comment
we,
to you, and you're exactly
what
right.
about loyalty maybe too, about,
That what?
well, if we consider that we run by one book, one set of rules, this, that, and the other.
We do
It's
have
our-
one set of rules.
I know, but it's our obligation.
Did you say we do have one set of rules?
And the rule says that,
How can you say that, Mary Ann?
because the rule says that it is our decision in the best interest to post or not post. But now, Mary, they will.
In the best position. Who's,
It's best interest of the school system. Sometimes things, and I'm not saying this, sometimes things are time specific to get a teacher to the classroom, but for the most part.
I'm talking about.
You're talking about this
different
position.
thing. We have created, are we gonna have a budget amendment for this position?
I don't know the answer to that.
Mr. Hall?
No, sir.
Why?
Because we've hired different people in at different experiences and the money's in the line item. That's one of the reasons it was filled at this time.
We added a person to our central office.
A new staff.
Yes.
And
So how can you not have a budget amendment for that
The
person?
money's in the line item because of other experiences where they.
So we've got a lot of fluff in those line items.
No, you've got somebody with 24 years of experience versus somebody with
Just
smaller
coming entry
experience,
level.
6 years of experience.
No, I just, okay. I think we're doing a disservice to our employees around the county.
And Mr. McNeese, again.
So you agree with me?
I will tell you
Okay,
that I
enough
make
said.
people post a lot that don't want to post, and I certainly.
Well, what makes them not post this time?
Because we have them in the system.
One of you did. One person you did not have in the system was a new hire. But because of who it was, they got that opportunity. I don't want to call names, I could. But that's the truth. I'm done. We post when we want to post, and if we want somebody to have a particular job, we don't post. That's the way I see it.
I'll try to change that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. And Mr. Chair, barring no questions, that concludes my report for tonight.
All right, you heard the director's report. We're here to receive the report. Motion by Commissioner Robinson. Here a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? Being no further discussion, director's report has been approved. Recommendation? of the
No, I
director?
voted no on that.
You vote no?
Yeah, I voted no on that report.
Okay.
On the entire report?
On the entire report, I can't just pick out a particular item, so. Yeah, you were over there thinking.
Recommendation of the director.
Okay, we have several first readings and then second readings as far as for your approval tonight. And starting with the first one, if you'll look at 5.115, looking at first reading. This is on assignments and transfers as written. If you'll
Number 3.
asking for proposed changes in the first reading to board policy section 6.2 on attendance. Again, if you'll look on the first page, much of it's editorial changes and updates. If you'll see reference on line 2 as far as under the federal guidelines of No Child Left Behind being struck, simply because that is no longer applicable. And again, updating language within the attendance policy and as far as in asking for approval.
Word of recommendation on number 3. All in favor? Hear motion. Motion by Mr. Robinson, second by Ms. Weathers. Any discussion? All in favor of policy number 6.21? Vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is so passed unanimously. Is that right?
And I'm asking for approval on first reading to board policy 6.203 on school admissions as written. And again, this is something that we're also as well as far as updating. And if you'll look on line 14, you'll see where we have we're striking out power of attorney, but remaining with an order of the court. Again, that was becoming something that was consistently we were seeing coming out of juvenile court, where someone would get power of attorney for a temporary custody, and so we were cleaning that up and making sure that it didn't cause issues as far as
who was taking liability and responsibility for a child.
You've heard the director's request on section 6.203 school admissions. I hear a motion.
Come on. Second.
Motion by Mr. Robinson, second by Mr. McNeese. Discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, so pass unanimously.
Okay, next one for your approval on first reading is Board Policy 6.304 on student discrimination harassment. And again, we had to do some updates and change that was necessary. And one of the things that we had to make sure that was addressed was looking at making sure the cyberbullying and others that we were updated. And I'm trying to see. Yes, I think you should have a copy of that. But again, that we're making sure that we are updating that piece. And let me see, there was something else I wanted to point out to you. If you'll look on page 4 of 7, there is a section there as far as new language, and let me read it out for the record. An administrator shall investigate when a student, teacher, or staff member reports an account of bullying or cyberbullying in their building. Cyberbullying now has become something that we are obligated, that when it becomes a disruption or an interruption in the school, or if it's been reported to us that it's originated in the school, so we have to be aware of that. Following any investigation that results in disciplinary action in concurrence with the Code of Conduct and Board policies, the administration shall report the findings along with the disciplinary action taken to the Director of Schools and the Chair of the Board of Education. Now, with that, we had, some conversation about what happens and what complicates that. And Mr. Wilson's here because part of what happens when you look at, when it's reporting, the administration will report the findings along with disciplinary action taken to the Director of Schools and the Chair. And what we're looking at, that really complicates it when that kind of reporting takes place, when you're looking at the volume as far as what can be reported. Mr. Wilson, is there anything that you would add to that conversation?
No, Mr. Whitlock and I looked at this together, and we tried to make sure that what our practice would be lined up with what would cover us from an Office of Civil Rights standpoint, but also from a legal standpoint. Needless to say, bullying and or cyberbullying is something that our principals have to deal with on a daily basis. Some of that is unfounded. So what we want to do is make sure that we're following what we need to be doing. We're investigating. We're protecting our children, but at the same time, we're not inundating Dr. Wright or the board chairman with paper trails of just their work and what they're doing. This policy, as it's written, would cover us both in terms of what we need to do to keep our children safe, but also to make sure that we're compliant with the Office of Civil Rights in terms of what they constitute as a requirement with bullying or checking with any instance of cyberbullying.
And we're keeping our administrators also as far as awareness, because again, it becomes very difficult when you start getting into the realms of cyberbullying and whether you can take any action or not. And that's something that our administrators are up against right now. So I'm asking for approval.
You all have heard the recommendation of the director on policy number 6.304. Do I hear a motion? Motion by Mr. McNeese, second by Mr. Robinson.
Question.
Any discussion?
Yes. You mentioned that our administration are really heavily involved on these issues. Because I had it's not a goddaughter and not a daughter, but it's a church daughter that was really getting harassed. Somebody posted her picture, and it didn't seem like they took it very serious at the time. And that concerned me because, number one, I was involved, but it seemed like the administration at Mount Juliet High School didn't seem to be overly concerned about it. And this girl was kind of scared, her mother was really scared.
Yeah, I remember, I think you and I even had a conversation about it, Mr. McNeese, and the thing that becomes very difficult for school administrators, and this is something that, I mean, and I understand the concern with parents as far as where's the point of origin, as far as is it happening at home between, and computer, or is it happening at school during school time? And so when you look at even the fuzziness of law, as far as what is our jurisdiction, what can we do? The one thing that we do advise parents because, again, particularly in middle school, we're seeing a lot of it emerge as far as getting law enforcement involved. And because we are limited as far as, and again, even to the point of when we can start checking as far as if it's on a cell phone. And asking for access to that, we're really, and Mr. Jennings might correct me on this, but there's been a lot of conversation in school law as far as what we have available to us on their personal phone, and making a determination whether they are starting that intimidation at school, or are they doing it after school. So I remember that conversation and the reluctance, or the appearance of reluctance on the school part to take action on it.
And the police officer, that maybe they didn't have a way to go or proceed on it, but it's very concerning.
Yeah.
And this is one incident I know it happens
And we're
all
seeing a
over,
lot of
so.
it in middle school and mostly among girls.
This was girls.
Well, Frank, that's a good point. I mean, do we have any control over what happens when they're not in school?
No, but we can make parents aware, and we do.
My question, Mr. Jennings, is should we develop guidelines on what our definition of a time or our responsibility is, and not leave it open-ended? Should we say between 7 and 3:30 or 8 and 4:30 every day? We feel the students are under our control and command, and any time after that cyberbullying or any of those types of offenses are perpetrated from one student to another, that we're not liable?
Well, Don, it's going to be difficult. In a perfect world, the answer would be yes, but we've got so many extracurricular activities now that are under school control, ball games, club meetings, dances, whatever.
Those are extracurricular.
Yep, but they're still, we're responsible for them. And so, yes, I would like to see that. How to do it would be a real challenge.
Okay.
But we've got to always, in my opinion, err on the side of caution, make sure that we've touched every base that we're supposed to touch. And, I mean, that was the rules I always had to follow, that you didn't ignore, you took the proper step, you made sure that you took the right steps, and in these kind of cases, this was before the word bullying was a phrase, I mean, that's not what we called it back in the good old days.
There's
only 4 of you alone worth it.
I know.
There's
Three
one
of us on the
thing.
boat.
There's one change I'd like to recommend on this one, Dr. Wright, is there's a section that says notification to the director and the chair. I'd like for that to be to the full board. That way we stay in the loop.
Well, that was the question that we were bringing up, just the volume as far as, again.
If you don't want to read it, just punch it off. I'd rather get the information and know than not know something's going on. Let me be the filter.
Okay, and when I'm saying volume, and I'm looking back at there, everyone's sort of like, it's a lot. And it's really taking a lot of time on behalf of administrators investigating every single possibility. So, Mr. Whitlock, if you'll make note.
Now, wait a minute, what are you saying? Are we gonna get inundated with emails?
As far as, that's how much.
Do we
One
not
thing-
have enough confidence in what's going on with those people who are in charge to handle that situation? I think I would. That's what we have.
What I can tell you that we, as far as, and this is something, and, Mr. Whitlock could tell you, we have to provide information to the state on a regular basis as far as, it's almost like an incident report, for lack of a better term. Chuck, what would you say? And part of that, because it's such a concern, and one that's pretty insidious, particularly the cyberbullying, that we can provide you as far as, just keep you as far as, by school, and look at just the volume as far as not getting into as far as unless you want into the details of what's occurring.
Maybe a periodic report.
And we could do that.
Something like that.
Because we have to provide that to the state, because they want numbers as far as what they're saying, particularly with school discipline, to see what seems to be the trending. And cyberbullying is a huge issue across the country right now.
How do you start with that?
The report.
This report you send to the state, just make sure we get a copy of it.
Oh, we can do that.
I have
And in
no
fact-
problem with it, you're notifying them every time someone comes out. That's fine, me. I mean,
But
I don't need it.
we've got a question that just popped in my mind too, though, that what we have to be real careful about is these privacy issues. That is the criteria that we've got to be careful about here.
That's why I'm talking about
I mean,
incidents. That's a good point.
I mean, it's,
Well, if you disseminate it to some people, what's the difference?
I would
If I'm gonna be held
I'm
accountable
talking
and
about-
responsible, I wanna know, okay?
Well, I think you
But
can
we're
deal
not-
with your concerns by doing what we do in special ed and just refer to initials. Stay away, and then if you need to follow up, like you were talking about, Don, being the filter, and you get 20 of those, and you say 17 of them, but I need to check into these 3, then you could call Dr. Wright or whatever, but you keep in mind, and we have to have this discussion every now and then, well, what you put in an email is public record. And if somebody makes a public record request,
And it might get to the point where you just want an incident report as far as we've had 4 incidents at Wilson Central or whatever it might be. And some of the things that might be referred to as bullying, particularly in elementary schools, are some of the things that we used to, as Mr. Robinson talked about in the olden days, as far as one kid poking another kid and something like that, and there's a parent complained that their child's being bullied. But we investigate every single one as if it was a serious complaint, even the ones that might not, remedy, as far as the true definition of bullying.
I'm gonna make that, change that word in there, where that all board members will be invited.
Yes.
All right. Y'all heard the recommendations, the recommended proposed changes. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McNeese, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Robinson, all in favor say aye.
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 It's okay.
Let it show page unanimous. Number 6, I believe where we're at, is that right? Communication devices?
Yes, it's, I'm asking for approval on first reading for policy 6.312 on use of personal communication devices. And if you'll look over it again, it's additional language on line 7, read CDs and DVD players and cell phones, because again, when we're looking at some of the smartphones can be used as an instructional device in the classroom.
Heard the recommendation, the record on policy number 6.312. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McNeese, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Withers, any discussion? If no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, let it show the pass unanimously. All right, student wellness.
Okay, on this next one, I'm going to ask Mr. Whitlock to address, because if you noticed on policy 6.411, student wellness on physical activity, it is almost a new policy as far as when you look at it entirety. So, Mr. Whitlock, if you'll address as far as why the need, considering we already had a policy in
Yes, ma'am.
place.
The previous policy, or the policy that's on the books right now, goes back to Dr. Duncan days. Federal mandate required us to develop that policy, had to have certain elements. We took a model policy and modified it back in, I guess, Ms. Lawson, Melody Turner, we had several folks at that first. And it's been tinkered with for close to 10 years now. What we have to propose is the TSBA model policy with a few tweaks to make it a little bit better.
What's the most significant, would you say, as far as what's placed in there? Yeah.
Well, it is bare bones. It has everything that's legally mandated by USDA, federal government, state government. And then one key piece is just the measurement. We'll have a report with, I think, some beneficial information that will be brought to y'all annually. And again, if it's 2 pages, people are going to read it. If it's 11 pages, people are going to skim it. So hopefully it's a much better policy that that's more useful.
And there's some words as far as when you look at some of the headings, as far as commitment, nutrition, commitment to physical activity. And that's the district, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Any questions for Mr. Whitlock on that?
The
policy?
nutrition, you talking about school lunches?
Yes, sir.
Are we gonna
Breakfast and
provide
lunch.
them some lunches they actually would like to eat?
That would be
Instead
a
of throwing it
wash.
all away? I'd rather have something outside the guideline that they'll actually eat.
And the Washington DC USDA, we've actually seen the most nutritious landfills.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Completely agree. The kids are not.
Not eating it.
They're not eating it. Our participation rate's down, and the amount of healthy food going into the trash can is going up, and that is because of the federal guidelines that we're required to follow if we're going to get the free and reduced funding.
How much money we get in from that program?
Oh, I don't know. That would be a Melody Turner or Mr.
Talking about
Hall.
the USDA program?
Whatever we get because we have to sell crappy lunches.
The USDA program, it's about $850,000 to $900,000.
And that's
Okay.
what provides those lunches.
Yes, sir.
So we'll keep selling crappy
But
lunches.
I do agree. We do need to make them more appealing, because if they're not appealing, they're not going to eat.
They're gonna eat what they're gonna eat. You're not gonna stop them.
Yes.
They'll just bring it in their backpacks and eat it out off of their own
And
table.
if you look at any of the educational journals, this is a conversation taking place in every district in this country.
If they're not talking about it, they're not paying attention,
Yeah.
because it really is. It's across the nation.
Mhm.
That's us. You don't ask me about that. That's all I have.
And, any other questions on this policy here? You've heard the recommendation of the Director on Student Wellness. Policy number 6.411, Student Wellness. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Willis. Do I hear a second? Motion to, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, oh, I didn't hear you, Mr. Willis, I'm sorry. All right. Okay, yes, sir. Any further discussion? Being no discussion, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor of the policy, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let it show the page unanimous. Mr. Whitlock, you gonna be here for the remainder of the meeting, or just come on up here again, I'd like to ask you a question.
Be kind.
This don't have nothing to do with what the policy is, but you might wanna leave it with, we get this out of the way. Recently, we've been, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of things been said about officials and referees having to do a background check.
Yes, sir.
And I know we have implemented that program, and we're in the process, we're doing that now. My question to you is, and I've been asked this by some of the people in the association, once they are cleared through Wilson County schools, why do they have to be checked every week?
It is with our Raptor system is what we're running them through. And I'm not, that'd be, Mr. Spencer's probably the foremost expert on Raptor, but it's my understanding that once let's say an official gets cleared at Mount Juliet High School, the system doesn't know that they've been cleared when they check in at Lebanon High School. That was my understanding.
Okay, is there any way that we could make that happen? Where that if they have been cleared at Lebanon High School and next week they have the game at Wilson Central, that they could just go right on through and not have to have it done again?
I can ask Mr. Spencer to see if that's feasible.
And we're just about through with the season, and but TSSAA is supposed to be coming up with a solution. Am I not right?
Yes, there's.
Not saying that they will, but
Right.
what's the date on that? Is it November?
We've got a Middle Tennessee, a regional meeting this week, and then they also have border control the following week. So, they are looking, they've been, I guess they're, feet to the fire on this one. We had all assumed that the officials, the adults working alongside our kids had squeaky clean records, and Tennessee and exposed some of that. So We've dealt with it, hopefully TWS to blame the signers. I believe the signers will take
Well,
care
what-
of it. But
what I-
we'll work to streamline that.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm hearing, that you would like to streamline for those folks that are working with us, aren't you?
And from what I've heard from people that are officiate here in our county, as compared to what they're getting in other counties, we're doing a good job. I mean, it's a lot faster, simpler than what they're getting in other places. I think we're doing a good job, but it would be good if whatever the TSS, if the TSSAA is getting involved in, they're gonna change something other, there's probably a way for them to make some money on it. It seems like to me that's all they really care about. But, you know, next year, if it gets down to football and it hadn't been changed, once we get a guy cleared in our county, he ought to be good for all of our students.
Yes, sir. We should be able, it was just very difficult mid-season to make that happen, and again, we have TSSAA steps kind of up in the air right now. As soon as that gets firmed up, we can definitely make a better plan of action.
And for everybody's information, there have been some people found. There have been some people caught. You know, and skeletons in the closet is out there, you know, on Friday night. So it's probably a good thing.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's move right along, Dr. Wright. Student transportation, that's always been
6.712, I'm asking for approval on first reading. If you'll look on line 16, a successful background check performed by the school, and that is something, as you brought up, that becomes an issue as far as parent responsibility, wanting to, transport other students. And again, there were some legislative changes that became law July 1st. We had to be in compliance, and again, this is updated, and particularly looking at not only pricing, but also looking at as far as a district taking responsibility, and as far as student data and reassurances there. And so again, this is second reading. We had discussion the first month, and ask for your approval on second reading.
Heard the recommendation of the director on policy number 6.600, student records. It's already been passed on one reading. Do I hear a motion? Motion by Ms. Armstrong. Do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Robinson. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I still don't like page 2, lines 18 through 24.
Page 2.
It's section on allowing outside sources, organizations to perform scientific research on student information, supposedly without them being able to identify specific students in the process. But you have to access individual records, and each of those individual records are tied to a student. I just think if that's something that we're going to consider, we need to have a legal contract that's binding and very stiff as far as the penalty is concerned, if we would ever consider it. Because these people access this information and they sell it. And once they have the record, they have the record.
And again, that is not new language as far as, but again, looking at as far as what the state's been very sensitive, particularly with parent concerns and with what was being done with student data, and where, not so much of it being sold, but where, once it was delivered, where was it going to? And as the conversation you and I even had earlier, there's a lot of requests, and it might even be considered as far as scientific research or whatever, but this is something we've been very deliberate about, that we are not someone's research study. Our children are not a research study unless there is something, whether it's a Vanderbilt that's looking at reading issues, which we did have a request that just came in, but we have an inordinate amount of requests to want to do research. And we've been very consistent as far as that if there is no validity, if there is no something that's coming out of a university with an IRB request, we're saying no. Because our children are not going to be used in that manner. And again, there's enough, whether it does occur or not, it does we're not taking that risk. And, again, we have to be very cautious and very careful. And I think that's why the state was receptive to parents' concerns and why there was a legislative decree that became law that districts had to clean up student record requests. And again, you've got a valid concern, but that's one that just for the public, when the school system has entered into a contract or written agreement for an organization to conduct scientific research on the system's behalf to develop, test, or improve instruction, provided the studies are conducted in a manner which will not permit the personal identification of students and their parents by individuals other than representatives of the organization, and the information will be destroyed when no longer needed for the purpose for which the study was conducted. Usually on dissertation studies, that might be a request that comes in, and they have to go through their university with an IRB as far as when you've got human subjects, and one of those things, it has to be validated. But I can assure you right now, we're even more critical about looking at that now and not so quick to allow even for dissertations or research coming out, because we need more information to make sure that there's nothing and that things are either redacted, student information, personal information is not used. So I can assure you that we're very cautious.
Well, I mean, if the board chooses to approve this, Mr. Jennings, I think we need to look at how we can tighten that section up to make it have teeth, that if we ever allow access to that data and they violate that trust, that there is a severe penalty that they'll have to incur.
We're gonna need some type of hold harmless agreement or
Absolutely.
indemnification agreement if they do, if we get sued.
They're responsible for any and all
I agree.
damages, both punitive and otherwise, if there's any litigation that's filed against the school board because of that.
I think we can fix that.
Okay.
Would you like to make a motion then that we attach that,
Prior to final approval, yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I surely
Okay.
would.
All right.
And one question too, Mr. Jennings, on line 23, item number 5, is using the Internal Revenue Service to determine the dependent, is that appropriate?
Can't be if it's Internal Revenue Service.
That seemed odd. I don't know if that's legal or not, is it?
Well, it does, I read through this afternoon, and I didn't pick up on this from Don, I apologize, but it does, looking at it, seem odd to me too. Why would they use us to determine who gets the dependency exemption?
And I've never seen that before in any legal document I've ever reviewed.
And when you look at it, that's something that really doesn't come through us, but when you're looking at FAFSA and some of the records like that, you're looking at, as far as not only tax
Okay, so-
records, as far as you have to prove income, there's some
Okay.
things there that would be the only thing, but that would be stretching it for that language to be in there. But that is something that sometimes would have to be validated.
And I defer to you if you
So-
want to take a look at that for.
So we come into the FAFSA, why don't we defer this one, let me look at that. I understand that FAFSA haven't
You know
been
what
through
I'm
it, I
talking about,
understand.
because that's something
Yeah.
that, again, that they're cross-referencing.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but there ought to be ways,
Motion to defer,
yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
we can
Second.
fix that.
We've got a motion on the floor to defer policy number 6.600. Motion and a second, that we defer this. I assume that deferral is going to allow our attorney to come up with some type of a hold harmless agreement.
Yes.
And to address line number, what was it, 23?
Yes.
Yeah, 4 and 5 on that page.
4 and 5, all right.
And Mr. James, you will get that to me so I can,
Yeah, I got to do a little thinking on
okay.
that.
Uh-oh.
Tonight ain't tonight, is it? I'm about to thaw it out.
Moving right along. Donna?
Okay, second reading, I'm asking approval for board, oh,
We
yeah.
vote, no, I
Yeah.
vote to defer. All right, all in favor of voting to defer, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let it show that we deferred unanimously on policy 6.600, student records. Medicines, individual health care plans.
Okay, I'm asking for approval on second reading for 6.405 on medicines and individual health care. Again, this was also an update based on law that came into bearing July 1. If you look on page, 3 of 3, and the addition on the cystic fibrosis, pancreatic insufficiency individualized healthcare plan. That was the addition that went through first reading, so asking for approval.
Someone,
Motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Armstead. Any discussion? Being no discussion, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor of policy number 6.405, medicines and individual health care plan, vote aye.
Aye.
No.
Opposed?
No.
Let it show that it passed 4-1 with Mr. McNeese voting no. All right. Mr. Nunn?
Okay, second reading, board policy 6.502 on foreign exchange students as written. Again, this was something that, based on some concerns that we've had, we needed to update our policy and strike out some language that was no longer necessary or appropriate. And again, without having to go back, you can see that as written. And the thing is that we need to not only protect children that are coming into the country, but also to make sure that we have appropriate procedures in place to guarantee that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second for Mr. McNeese, second for Ms. Armstead on policy number 6.502, foreign exchange students. Any discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let it show that it passed unanimously. All right.
Next, I'm asking for approval of the textbook adoption committee for school years 2015-2016 as written. You've got a list of committee. It's one that, again, this is an annual process when there's an adoption. I have Mr. Wilson here. Should you have any questions as far as the process and the new additions as far as based on state requirements.
Is that for 15, 16?
Yes,
That's
sir.
the year we're in now?
Yes, sir.
you'll be reviewing books for next year, though, right?
Yes, the commit, yes. The process actually takes about 18 months from beginning to end.
Cycle.
Because it's a cycle, so when this says 15, 16, what that's saying is a committee is being formed this school year to adopt the next set of textbooks the state approves. The districts fall behind almost a year from what the state's happening. The state is currently reviewing textbooks for the current adoption cycle. State board will approve those. If things go according to plan, those normally get approved in November, the next state board meeting. That information is shared with districts, and then districts have a local committee to determine then what they choose to adopt, because state code, state law requires every local education agency, every district to adopt textbooks. It is not an option. My previous.
There's a difference. Doesn't mean you have to buy.
It does not mean, that's why I said it's adopt, it's not purchase. That's what I was gonna follow up with. We're required to adopt. You're not required to purchase, because if you're required to purchase, somebody's gonna have to fund that. And legislators are great at making policies that don't have.
Does anything preclude a board member from serving on that committee?
I'd have to go back and look. I want to
There's
say
something.
there. Yes, I want to say yes. I'd have to double check for you, Mr. McNeese. To be on the committee now, they did update the law last year to where you had to include parents. The parent has to be a parent of a student currently enrolled. It can't be somebody who's a former parent or from a private school or homeschool, no. But to be on the committee, you have to be a teacher, supervisor, principal, but you have to be currently endorsed. That's why I'm saying I don't believe school board member can be on there, because you're not currently endorsed as a certified teacher.
But there is a parent.
But parent is an exception. That's what I'm saying. They added parent. They did not add school board member. They did not add general public citizen. You'd have to talk to your legislators about that.
I could go along with the committee if we added Don Weathers to that list. Or a board, I'm not gonna rubber stamp the textbook.
It's law. I mean,
Well,
I
as
understand
long
what
as you
you're
gotta
saying.
present them, but I don't have to agree with them in passing.
You don't have to agree, no.
So-
But I'm saying, That's why board
And
members
this
are
next
not
adoption that
included.
we're looking at right now, what,
It's 4 clusters of CTE. It's,
Any social studies in this?
no, sorry.
No. I'm feeling better already.
There's not. This is, actually, I was part of the reason some of the adoption process was changed in my former job. We actually tried to rotate from a state perspective a heavy year for textbook adoption because most of the time districts do need to purchase resources. What was happening is that the adoption process, you were having a heavy purchasing year after a heavy purchasing year, which was crippling districts. So we set up a statewide task force, had representatives from all over the state, and we said, let's try to have a heavy year followed by a lighter year to give districts a little bit of financial reprieve, so to speak. So for example, this past year we adopted math. Math is a K-12 program. It's a tested program. Our teachers are under a new assessment, new curriculum, so we had to get them resources. So we tried to follow that at the state level. The State Textbook Commission followed that with a lighter year. So this next year is CTE, and I believe we have 16 career clusters, but this only covers 4. So this is like 1/4 of a CTE program that's only 912. So it's not a very heavy adoption and should not be controversial in terms of curriculum, in my opinion. Based on
So
my
then we could put
experience.
Mr. McNeese on.
You could put Mr. McNeese on there if he met the requirements, yes, you
I'm a grandparent, does that count very much?
Uh,
But if it's CTE or math, I'm not bright enough to do it anyway. But I can read social
Right.
studies.
So it's basically following, and if you're ever really interested in this, I've done about a 4-hour session on how this works, but you've got different entities just as quick. You've got state law that you have to follow. But then in terms of getting a textbook, it starts with the State Board of Education approving state standards. Then it moves to a bid process for textbooks that the State Department of Education has to oversee. Then it goes to a state textbook commission, which is appointed by different individuals in government. They approve a list of approved textbooks based on a rubric that meets standards only. They rubber stamp that, basically, to use a term you mentioned, used a minute ago. That goes forward to the State Board of Education again, who approve the standards. They have to approve the official state textbook list. And at that point, then they turn it to the district to say, okay, it's up to you to do what you want to do. So it's a vicious cycle with questions of accountability. So when certain people tell you they've talked to somebody and said, this is who's in charge, it's normally not the case. It is a cycle, and people unfortunately like to pay.
You just be on the committee here and tell me if I'm still on the board on social studies. And then
You will be well informed if social studies comes up and you're on the board. I can guarantee that, sir.
I've got the answer for this. I've got the law here.
Do you have it pulled up?
What it says is these committees shall be set up by grade in subject matter fields and composed of teachers or supervisors and teachers and parents with children enrolled in the LEA at the time of appointment to a committee. The local board may also appoint experts in the grade level or subject matter field for which textbooks and instructional materials ought to be reviewed.
And now that you mentioned that, what that mentions is, and that was the other addition, thank you for bringing that up, but what that says is, for example, if we are adopting welding books, we are allowed to include a professional welder on the textbook review committee.
Well, if you ask Don Weathers, he's most expert on everything.
So, and that is an area where, in terms of the questions I fielded in my previous job, there were a lot of questions is what constitutes an expert? So that would be up to the board.
I'll tell you what's not.
But,
Yes, sir.
but we're gonna select textbooks based on the list that's handed down to us, and we're gonna select from those.
You can select from those. However, you also can select outside of that list and apply for a waiver from the Department of Education.
Which
That's
must be
not
approved.
something, and it has to be approved by the Commissioner of Education. Last year, there were more waivers submitted in the state than ever before. And there actually were probably,
Mostly in AP. selection?
A lot of them are AP. We had a couple for math, because for the first time last year, we actually denied math textbooks by certain companies because they were not rigorous enough. They did not meet our standards. And some districts wanted those anyway, but the commissioner denied those. So for last year, for the first time, there were textbook denied at the state level, and there were waiver requests denied by the Commissioner of Education. So there is more meat in this process than it used to be, but you are correct that most of what you review is what's approved, because otherwise you don't know what's available. Any other questions? Okay.
No, Lord, no, not answer yet.
I had them ready, Mr. Canice.
No such thing.
That's just phase one, Wade.
This is just the committee. It gets more interesting. And I will say this, I would like to compliment Wilson County. I should have said this earlier, but after part of my former job, I did have to work with compliance and districts following the law. This county does an exceptional job of not just following the law, but following the process, staying on top of things. We are very blessed that we have the leadership we have. Kim Clemens works with us right now in terms of these committee members. Angela Rowan did it before when I was here, and we do an exceptional job. There are districts that are non-compliant that get in trouble with compliance, and that never happens here. So I would like to applaud Wilson County for their work in this endeavor.
Aren't you glad you're back?
Yes, ma'am.
Please don't answer that question.
You started. We're getting a little giddy here.
Yeah, look at the time.
Yeah.
And that was right before we started talking.
Is breakfast ready?
We can work on that. Jerry, you ready for the next one?
I don't think we've approved
Yeah,
this.
I'm sorry, I'm
We need to
jumping
vote
ahead.
on.
You've heard the motion of the to approve the textbook committee. I hear a motion.
So moved.
Motion is second. All in, any discussion? If not, all in favor of approving the textbook adoption committee, vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, let it show passion. That's Wilson County Schools 216-17 program status.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm asking for approval for the program of studies as written for next year. There's a lot of additions as well as some edits. I want to formally introduce Dr. Kate Bergen. I don't know that I've done that as far as secondary supervisor. And she has taken this task as far as when we started this rollout last year. And if you have any questions, she's the one that's been the overseer of this process this year. So, any questions? Asking for approval. This becomes sort of the guideline and book that counselors will work for as far as when they not only build their master schedule, but also as far as what courses are available and the sequencing of courses. So I'm asking for approval.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Mr. Withers, second by Mr. McNeese. All in favor of program 16-17 program studies guide, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, let it show passion. That's number 14,
I'm
compliance report.
I'm asking for approval of the 2015 LEA compliance report as written. This is an annual report that we used to do a checklist. I don't know how many of you remember that we go through that checklist to even make sure that we did Francis E. Willard Day. And now it's an online process and which we have completed, so I'm asking for your approval before we submit to the state.
Y'all heard the recommendation of the director. Do I hear a motion to approve the compliance report?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McNeese, second by Ms. Armstead. Any discussion? Being no further discussion, assume you're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, let it show that it passed unanimously. Surplus transfer.
Now, I'm asking for your approval for something I think is fairly unique. If you'll notice a letter that is from Mr. Hall, asking for a request to transfer bus number 02-11, the 2002 Bluebird Freightliner Type A to the city of Lebanon for use by the Senior Citizen Center. And the bus was declared as surplus at the October board meeting. So we're asking for your approval if that can be donated, keeping in mind it's already been declared surplus.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McNeese, second by Ms. Armstead. Any discussion? Being no further discussion, all are ready to vote, say vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, let it show that it passed unanimously.
Second request, as far as I'm asking for approval for a surplus and request to transfer fixed assets. If you'll notice again, a letter This is something working out with the Sheriff's Department. Please accept this request to declare 2 greenhouses and a storage building located at the old Lebanon High School as surplus, and approval to transfer them to the Sheriff's Department. And the request for this item, for the items were made by Sheriff Robert Bryan. And if you'll remember what's on the facility, or the campus there, that's sitting over on the side of where, I guess, what would that be, the east side of the campus?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion with Mr. Withers, second with Mr. McNeese. Any discussion? Then, I will tell you that I think that their plans are to locate those near their impound lot in their shooting range at the Ward Ag Center. And they have got the city of Lebanon has agreed to run a gas line back there so that they can put those greenhouses into operation. As y'all all know that they do a garden every year, raise their own vegetables, and so that's what they're going to be using those for. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let it show that it passed unanimously. Approve the bid for Liberty Conference and Committee members.
Okay, yes, Mr. Chair, I'm asking for approval as far as the committee members that are listed for the collaborative conferencing to represent the management team and Wilson County Schools. And if any questions as far as Ms. Sparks, we'd be happy to walk you through the process as far as the law. And we've had a very good meeting with the president of WCS, Melissa Lynn, back there. And I think their process, Melissa, correct me, it's January that you'll select your membership. So I'm asking for approval of the committee members as listed.
So moved.
Your second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Withers. Second by Mr. McNeese. Any discussion? You might announce who those members are there.
Well, 2 board members that have agreed to serve on that, Linda Armstead and Wayne McNeese. That might have been why that second was so weak. And then you look as far as by grade level, and Monty Wilson, Kate Bergen, Jeff Lettrell, Carmen Valkyrie, and Monica Fox. So we've got high school.
Monty Wilson's on that committee with me.
That's right.
So don't ask any questions, Mr. McNeese.
We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I don't see any good union members on there, but
No such thing.
that being said, you're wrong about that one. But all in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let it show that it passed unanimously.
I'm asking for approval for the bid 2016-01 award for the Optimizon copiers as written. We had during our work session questions and discussion with the rep there, Hannah. In fact, she is still with us, and I appreciate that. So I'm asking for approval. She's still back there.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Armstead, second by Mr. Withers. Any discussion? And that company being was R.J. Young? Is that who?
R.J. Young Rico.
R.J. Young Rico. And Rico, I assume, is the name of the company.
It's
right?
brand, yeah. It's
The brand.
All right. Any further discussion? Being no discussion, assume you're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let it show that it passed unanimously. I assume that's the end of your report.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that concludes my recommendations, and number 19 was pulled.
Okay. Under old business, as you all know, there is a portion of the contract that we have with Dr. Wright that states that for every 10th of a point in the ACT scores, Wilson County Schools has agreed to pay Dr. Wright $1,000. With our scores increasing by 0.3 of a point, then we owe Dr. Donna a $3,000 increase. That money is already in the budget, so my recommendation to you all is that we go ahead and fulfill that section of the contract for by Dr. Wright.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Weathers, do I hear a second? Second by Ms. Armstrong and Mr. McNeese. Any further discussion? Being no further discussion, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor of that, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let it show that it passed unanimously. Any other old business to come before the board at this time?
Yep. I'm sorry, what was it?
Any old business to come before the board?
Yeah, I think we need to, discuss putting out an RFP for land, in the, 109 area. Would that be appropriate at this time?
Do we have to say what specific area it would be in?
The last time we didn't, we only got, I don't know. Vicki?
I mean, from what I heard during the work session, basically, we're gonna cover the top northern part of the county, from what I heard from everybody, unless you wanna go south of the interstate, we'll make that in there too. We've got the south of 40 handled from a Stewart's Ferry stand. So Okay. We can make that, like I said, the northern part covered. Let us draw it, and we'll send it to you, and you can, before
Okay.
we send it out, and you all can tell us to add or whatever.
And if there's other parameters in there, they need to also, as far as Mr. McNeese, if there's something else that needs to be included in that language, we need to know that.
I would like to also include still the option to keep the present property, if it's available, on the table as well.
I agree with that. Now, you did say the northern part?
Well, that's what I understood from the work session. Let us draw it up, and then we'll email it to you before we send it out, and you can tell us we'll get the feedback from all 5 members and before we send it out.
Is that fair enough?
Mr. Withers, the parcel that you were talking about in the 109 area, is that gentleman, he don't want to do an RFP?
I don't know. He approached me after the RFP process was over last time. And I don't know if he didn't see it or just didn't want to fill out the paperwork.
You might want to follow up with him and tell him
I'll call him
that
tomorrow.
this is going to happen. And even if we're not ready to branch into that area, we still need to.
I'll even
look
go
at
over,
it.
I'll even go over and go walk the place with him just to see what the terrain looks like.
You said it was close to 80 acres, is that what you said?
It's my understanding it was 88 acres in that little farm.
Was it on the west side or east side of 109?
It's on the west side.
Is that close to Burton Road?
I don't know.
Okay.
I just know it's on the west side of 109. I don't know exactly where it's located. I didn't know it was north of 70, but it's south of LaGarda, so somewhere up through there.
I've never down pretty considerable.
You gonna put that in the form of a motion?
I did, yes.
If we RFP, did I hear a second to that? I did. Did I hear a second? Don, did you second?
Second.
Second for Don. All right. Any further discussion on the RFPs to include the west, north, northwest, and northeast section of Wilson County for future land purposes? All right. Any other discussion? If not, I assume we're all ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let it show the passion now at this time. Any new business to come before the board at this time?
Yeah, got that abatement problem.
Yeah, I've got that written down here. I'll give anybody else a chance. I had written down here too because I wasn't sure with Major Keith commented today about the greenhouse. But so I didn't know that it was already in here. So we can strike that off. The old LHS abatement program. Mickey, you want to explain what's going on there with that? So everybody knows?
This is the process we talked about during the work session. This is the beginning of the renovations over there. The first thing we have to do is get rid of the asbestos in the building. Because a lot of it's in the floor when they redo the electrical and plumbing, they're going to tear a lot of that up. So this is bids from Terracon, who's our agent for the state for asbestos program. They're a year program. They had 4 companies look at the plans after talking with Jason on what needed to be done. And their recommendation is to go with a company called I'm gonna spell it because I'm gonna pronounce it wrong, but AEGIS Environmental, for the abatement and demolition project, and then the renovation project will come behind that.
And that is included, Mickey, in the funds that were approved.
Yes, sir, the 14.5 million, yes, sir. And just to reiterate for the board, November the 24th is when we was gonna put what you saw out on the streets for bid. And then the 15th of December, they would come back. And we would ask if you all could look at your schedules and maybe call a 5 p.m. work session on that 21st. I know it's Christmas week, but that's before the county commission meets where they can stage.
December, I put down November, I thought, boy, y'all gonna get that turned around.
No, it's actually going the other way. So that would give us the ability to get them to where they can start staging to try to hopefully complete the project by this time next year. And we'll have a new location for our district operation.
And when are you gonna start the abatement process?
They said they could start November the 10th if they get approval tonight.
Okay, so you're asking us to, look at coming back on December the 15th after our December board meeting and reschedule regular scheduled meetings on the 7th.
I'm asking you all to come back on the 21st. That's
On the
5/21. The bid opening date's the 15th. We'll get that information in, and then Jason will review it and have a recommendation that will get sent out to you all before the 21st.
And clarify for record, because Ms. Ward needs, as far as are you talking?
It would be a special call meeting just to deal with the renovation bid for the central office.
At that time, that might be the only thing that, but before you advertise that as being said, there might be something else that might be added to the agenda at that time, so hold off on that until the time to notice that. You have to get out to notice it, because we might discuss something else other, and if we say advertise it as a special meeting for that purpose, we wouldn't be able to discuss nothing else. So wait until we are allowed to, we might have something else to come up during that time. Okay? Anything else?
That's just our recommendation from Terracon for the board's approval, so we can begin.
You all have heard the recommendation from Mr. Hall, and I'm not going to attempt to announce the name of the company. Aegis?
Aegis.
Okay. That Aegis be awarded the contract to remove the asbestos and stuff from the old Harding Drive property, the old Lebanon High School. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wheeler, here second.
Second.
Second by Mr. McNeese. Any further discussion? Being no further discussion, I assume you're ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's show that it passed unanimously. Next board meeting will be December the 7th at 6 o'clock here in the boardroom. Also, the TSBA Leadership Conference and Convention will be November 13th through the 16th, of this year, down at, I guess, once again, it's at Opryland Hotel. And I guess all of you that are going to be able to go and attend all those sessions have already told Kelly.
Yes, sir.
And I do know that there will be a presentation to the Wilson County School System on 16th, is that right?
16th Monday.
Monday the 16th. All right, a special presentation to us is Carroll Oakland Elementary School has been awarded, was awarded an award by the TSBA, KBJM as the contractors for the school of the year for a renovation program. So that's something we all ought to be proud of, and that award will be handed out on the 16th at a luncheon there at the convention. Also, you guys be thinking, ladies, be thinking about what you want to do during Christmas. We normally, after our board meeting, we try to get together and break bread. And like last year, I know that the CPU class over at Lebanon High School provided us with a fantastic meal. So y'all be thinking about what you want to do, if you want to do anything at all, whatever. Either letting myself or Kelly or somebody know what your pleasure is, and we'll try to make some arrangements to get something done. Any other thing to come before the Board of Education this time? If not, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Adjourn.